Action.
I'd like to call the Arundel Planning Board to order. This is a follow-on meeting to our March 28th meeting that was stopped because of the fire alarm. We're meeting in the Code Enforcement Office, Town Hall, 600 Limerick Road. I'd like to begin with a roll call. Somebody start.
Greg Copeland. Roger Moran.
Bob Coon.
John McKendron.
Bob McGinn.
Tab Redway Planner.
Ian Burgess, Board Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, this is 468 Limerick Road.
468.
Yeah.
Thank you. Today we're going to go over approval of the minutes for March 28th. We'll move into the land use ordinance revisions, beginning with Downtown Business District 1. First item of business will be follow-on discussion, read the motion that was made at the conclusion of the March 28th meeting. Read commercial banners at 20 square foot per occupancy with application for both the single and multiple use occupancies. We'll move into landscape lighting in the Downtown Business District after that. We'll discuss a little bit about an implementation strategy as applies to our ordinance, the Comprehensive Plan Committee, and the EDC. Have a planner's report tonight. Any other business board members would like to bring up? And there being no public comment, or there being no public available now, we may not have public comment at the end. If folks show up, we'll give them that opportunity. So, item 1, approval of minutes, March 28th.
Motion to approve as written.
Second that.
I have a motion by John to approve, second by Tom. Any other discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? It's unanimous of those attending. Downtown Business District, as I mentioned, we'll move into the follow-on discussion. A motion that was made by Rich Ganong versus commercial banners at 20 square foot. I'd just like to let the board be aware, and I'll open it up for that follow-on discussion to his motion, that if there are any needed changes, we'll have to together vote it down, get a new motion by somebody that's here, because this was initiated by the individual. If we are all in concurrence with that motion, then it's not a problem. We have more than a quorum here tonight. We can approve the motion as made. So, if we go back to the March 28th minutes, Ganong moved that the maximum area for both single occupancy and multiple occupancy lots shall be 20 square foot per occupancy. John McKendron seconded that motion. We did begin some discussion. Planner reminded us all that the banner signage is in addition to other allowed signage, and it is only temporary the way that we have written it, and at 7:59 we adjourn. So I'll open it up for any further discussion by board members.
Yeah, Ted, you mentioned the banner sign was an addition to. Should it be?
Well, I would say yes, because if you have a maximum signage, and this is temporary signage, then that would mean that a business would have to have a smaller amount of permanent signage in order to allow for the occasional banner, which would be kind of a difficult thing to do. That would penalize a business for having banners. So that's why, in my view, it would be an addition to, because it's temporary and would temporarily add to the maximum signage permitted.
Okay, any other?
I think that one of the other issues we were just, the gist of the debate was also, I mean, Roger brings up, that point, the other point is also the question of cumulative impact of multiple occupancy that have banners, that all will have 20. The idea of having 10 was to reduce the visual impact if everybody has a banner. You have 5 units and they all have banners up at the same time. What will that create in terms of impact, I guess was the question. And when I had done the 10, reduced it down to 10, it was the assumption that people would be putting up banners in multiple occupancies and we'd be having banners all the time. The idea was to reduce them down. First of all, because in most cases, probably the frontage where the signage would be less than it would be in a single occupancy. Big assumption, but that assumption exists. And the second thing would be, the idea of the cumulative impact of 20 square foot banners, especially in occupancies that might have only 25 feet of frontage. Remember, the banner, it doesn't matter what the frontage is. The banner's not assigned to the frontage. It is a set stock size. That's it. It is not something that's based on the size of the building. Let's say it's a great equalizer between all businesses, that banner. But the question is, how much do you want it to have if you have multiple occupancies?
That's my thought. There's 10 by,
10 by 2.
yeah.
4 by,
It's not
4
that,
by
4 by
5.
5, that's not that big, yeah,
But 10 by 2 is,
pretty long.
that's long. And actually, some of the long banners are usually about that. I was looking at the Biddeford, not the Biddeford, the Norway Savings banner over in Kennebunk today. And that's a bigger banner, but that's more like a 4 by 5 would be. That's the same kind of scale.
Yeah.
But that's based on the signage. They got a post sign there. That's why they have it. But then there's banners that go across, like opening soon. Those are usually long banners. And 2 feet, 2 feet's about that.
Yeah.
And that's about the size that you want for a traditional banner. So,
The other alternative, and that's not this motion, but the other alternative would be that we could base the maximum banner size on the size of the allotted signage for that business. But then it becomes a problem with enforcement again, because you have to, it's another thing that you have to keep in mind.
Well, I'd also say that is one option. Another option is to limit that there be no more than 1 or 2 banners at any given time, or 3, or some number. The intent, I think, of the previous writing was to have these as special things. It didn't come out in the writing, but at grand openings, closings, that sort of thing.
well, we seem to deviate. I agree, Mr. Chairman. We seem to deviate from that. I mean, if you want to make it for specific events, we can make it event-based. But I thought the board was moving towards just having the opportunity to have banners.
Allowing
Without requiring it to just be closing or opening banners.
The only thing we say it's temporary signage, but temporary always at times can be permanent. I mean, what's temporary? A month or 2 can be difficult to enforce.
Oh, we do have a definition. Remember that?
Yeah.
Right, it's right here, yeah.
Definition of that sign. The banner commercial. This is a commercial banner, not a
Yeah.
cultural banner.
Right.
If you don't like the word cultural, give me another one besides that non-profit banner, but not every banner that goes up is not necessarily non-profit. So is it a cultural banner? The Historic Society, okay, they are 501c3, so they would be a non-profit, but let's say the Boosters Club, that isn't 501c3, they're not officially a non-profit by federal standards, but, so I call it a cultural banner. But a commercial banner is well, no, that doesn't say it, does it?
It just says temporary sign.
Whoa, wait a second,
What's
what happened? What happened?
You added in the commercial banners, but we had said that they'd also fall under the temporary thing, the community festivals, carnivals, special events.
Yeah, we were trying to do, we were gonna say that.
Any signage directed visual or public or directly associated with a public festival or a special community event.
Right. I thought we had whoa, what happened?
Well, you
Next
did have a
sentence.
separate definition for
We
it.
I did it.
Temporary
Yeah.
signs, 577.
No, where it has 30 days, twice a year.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
5.78, 5.7.8.
Okay, all right.
That's in 5.7.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Commercial operations
Yeah.
located in a business zone may erect a single temporary commercial banner no more than 2 times in a single calendar year for a duration of no more than 30 days for each display.
Yeah,
All
okay.
banners shall be required to
Oh, yeah.
procure a permit from code enforcement officer and to provide cash, and we'll go over this later, surety to ensure removal of the commercial banner at the appointed time.
Okay, we did that on.
So the motion that we're considering right now is whether to allow that for a size of 20 square feet per business, even in multiple occupancy.
And that size may change depending on the district or the neighborhood that we put this in. You know, we might, if we have it in a smaller, a district where there's bigger buildings, let's say the B1, this enables us to change the size of those banners.
Right, but that's what we're considering right now, is 20 square feet. in-
For this
Correct.
district.
Just for this district.
Just for this district.
And this district is
Downtown,
DB1.
It's proposed new district.
DB1.
Proposed DB1.
And that was the motion that was made at the end of the last meeting. Marty, feel free to
And now-
entertain. Let the record show that Marty King has joined the group.
I went to school.
You'll be able, yeah, no, that's fine. You'll be able to offer any comments, and you won't be able to vote. Or, no, discussions had already started.
I know we have, we're talking about a maximum size, but house, what about a small, like, what if it's just an open sign that's only this big, a little made out of fabric, is that considered a banner?
Let's see, if it's in the window, it's a window sign.
So they might put out front just a,
You mean
Open
the actual,
flag,
the open
yeah.
flag? The open flag's exempt,
an open flag.
is exempt, is now. Is it?
How about,
It is in 5.7.
so how about half price today sale, that's only a little, just a little
Well, they
thing.
could put out
Yeah,
sandwich
put a
boards
sandwich
or
board
that,
sign.
which are
Yeah.
allowed now.
I guess I'm curious, when does it become a banner?
When it becomes fabric.
Fabric and temporary.
Fabric.
So they wouldn't be able to put a half price, 50% off, if it was on fabric and was hanging from?
No.
So a plastic banner is different than a fabric banner.
I think,
You said fiber.
yeah,
That's what you said, fiber.
Said fabric,
but
there is plastic fabrics.
Vinyl.
well, I think what we're hung up right now on, or what we're discussing right now, is just the size of it, not whether or not it should be permitted or all of that.
Exactly.
So
So
it's the
we
size
can
of it.
come back to that later.
So we do have a motion and a second. I guess we can bring it to a vote.
For 20 square feet,
I
right?
think open banners are permitted, but let me just check. 7 to 12.
And I think I would be about right in saying that the window is maybe about 10 square feet. At that.
Yeah, a
So
little
we're
bit
looking
more,
at
maybe.
like something twice the size of that window, and this being the maximum banner size per business,
Yeah,
roughly.
yeah.
Well, I guess I put the open in.
I don't see it in here,
What, in the new one?
in the exemptions. You had said that it would be in the exemption, unless it's in.
57.10, number 5.
7.10?
57.10.
Oh, yeah.
Number 5.
Too much stuff.
5, 7, 10, 5.
Oh, and
57.10, number 5.
open banners, flags or banners manufactured with the generic word open shall be permitted for display on any licensed business property or storefront located in any of the business districts. Such banners and flags shall be exempt from aggregate sign area and dimensional requirements specified in provided no advertisement of the business or product is contained thereon, and the banner or flag is removed at the close of the business day. So, thank you, ma'am. Okay, so again, the motion before us is that the maximum area for both single occupancy and multiple occupancy lots shall be 20 square foot, a maximum of 20 square foot.
Per business.
Correct.
Well, I just want to add something. I don't have a problem with that, but thinking of a large building that wears motors, that 20 square foot would get lost. Would it be big enough for all types of businesses?
That's, where is this gonna be in the
In the
DB2 zone? No, it's gonna
All
be-
of it's in DB1.
It's all of it. All of that's right.
Good point.
But in the grand scheme of things, you've got all this other signage that you've got available to you. The banners is like an added bonus. So we're not penalizing whereas motors or someone with a large building. We're just saying that 20 square feet is the maximum you can have.
Right now, we have a limitation of banners size. I think banners, though, are part of the square footage. Let me just, nope, they're not. There's one banner per business provided is erected no more than 30 days annually and does not exceed the maximum allowable size for a post sign in the zone in which the business is located. So that would be,
32.
oh, it's more than that. It's up to 50. Well, it's up to 40 for a post sign for a private project, and 50 for a post sign or ID sign for a public project.
The big sign. Big banner.
A big mother banner.
So would it, yeah, and I need to bring it up, but we'd be hearing about it. Would that be seen as we're limiting what they're already able to do right now?
Yeah, it would limit what they're going to do right now in one sense,
Mm.
in that the size is less than would be allowed now, but we can let them do it more
Yeah, 60
frequently
days.
than they get to do it now. So they get to do it twice a
Twice
year.
as often.
So they get to do it twice as often.
Okay.
Well, not twice as often. Right now, they only can do it one
Once.
time a year
Yeah.
for 30 days. And under this, they can do it twice a year for 30 days each.
Yeah.
A total of 60.
No,
So,
question. 30 days. How about if they don't use this full 30 days?
you get a 30-day permit. At the end of that 30 days, it's done. None of this, we're going to count it up for 55 hours this day, and then we take it down and put it up for 3 hours the next day. No. That is unadministratable.
Right, so
It
30
just can't
days,
be
you use it
administered.
as you please.
That'd be concurrent.
What the permit will say is when you get the permit, it'll say, start date, and it'll say end date. That's what it'll say. So you'll do it judiciously. Every business will do it judiciously. I mean, it's
Not every
added bonus
business does
signage.
it.
It's bonus signage. So they'll use it. I know Rich isn't here, so we can say that term, bonus signage. But it is bonus signage that's given to the more frequently to the property owners. It's just a little less of a huge scale. It's a smaller scale.
Question. Who really does banners or this in town?
Well,
At
it's not just who
present.
does it now, it's who will do it in the future. Because this zoning ordinance deals more with the future businesses, not with the current businesses. Because it also grandfathers existing signage.
And, not really pertinent to this motion, but what about the little pennant flags that they use frequently on car sales lots? That would count as banners as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It's, I think we've moved away from the pennants, but they have other things now. First of all, the inflatable guys. Things that we all hate, that are really annoying. I think that's taken over the pennants. We also have the new fabric. You've probably seen they're decorative or artistic, where they flap in the wind. They've kind of got a bulldozer in the front, and they come down, and they're on a large L-shaped pole,
Yeah.
and they flap in the wind, and they're basically attention getters. And the problem with attention getters, flags are great and so forth, but those are intended to get around the moving sign requirements that are pretty much in all zoning ordinances now, because they're distractions to drivers. But yeah, we'd probably treat those as banners unless we get enough of people. What we're saying is you can have banners. They've got to have a function besides meant just to attract the eye. An open banner has a function, obviously, and that function is to let people know that you're open. A flag, putting in a whole bank of flags makes a hell of a statement. But that's flags are permitted. We're saying that flags are, even though they can be distracting, or something everybody can put up with. It doesn't say it has to be an American flag. Put up a Moroccan flag, it doesn't matter. It's a flag. And then we also have banners. We have a whole bunch of different things that can attract people's attention, besides some of these mechanisms that
Right,
we
but
use.
they're not necessarily illegal, as long as they would fit within our maximum size
For the banners.
for the banners,
Yeah.
right? Okay, well, I'd like to call this to a vote, Mr. Chairman.
All right. No other discussion. Okay. All in favor of the 20 square foot per occupancy, and that applies to both single occupancy and multiple occupancy lots. All in favor? 3, 4, 0 opposed? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the remainder of the...
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm sorry?
I'm just against banners.
Oh. We'll move on to the rest of the signage organization. I'll turn it back over to you, Phil.
Okay, we were,
No, it's single page. This is the one from last week. I pulled up.
let's see, what? So that's done. We've got commercial banners now are 20 square feet per occupancy.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be doing it at the same time anyway.
Well, it'd be foolish to put them up.
See, have there been any other changes? Gentlemen, I think that's it. There have been no other changes. We've already gone over the design requirements for posted directory signs. Could we be done?
I have a question on the 578 that we just read, where we put in, I know there was discussion about it, and maybe I'm just not remembering everything that went on, but this requirement, and to provide a cash surety to ensure removal of the commercial banner at the appointed time.
Should that be as part of the ordinance, or should that just be part of the administration of the ordinance?
Sureties have to be specified in the ordinance.
They do?
Yeah, they should be. Otherwise, it does seem like it's capricious, something that's being done by town officials as a penalty, if you will. So, that's what you have in the subdivision ordinance.
And then within the administrative reg, you're gonna have what that cash surety is, et cetera.
It actually will be set by the selectmen. It could be $5. It could be $20. It could be $50. It's up to them. They set the fees. We're not gonna
Okay.
leave the fees to them.
Bob, could I go back to my question of what makes it when does it become a banner? Or is it 50% off sign that's that big? It's not a permanent sign. It's not they don't put it on a sandwich board.
Yeah, it doesn't have a frame.
It doesn't have a frame. It's flapping in the wind. I know there is a definition of it, but doesn't say like what triggers. There could be a lot of small little things that you just want to hang up for a couple of days or something.
Like what?
Shoes 50% off, 2-for-1 sale or whatever. Just
Make them window signs.
Make them window, they could make them window signs,
So it'd be-
overhangs, I think you do
Put
an
it inside,
overhang
yeah.
sign that they could change out.
and this could be a banner, but we'd be banning any of those unless they came in and get the permit. Anything flapping, and that's where you get into a car with the pennants or anything, or, you know, are they each a banner?
Yeah, usually they're a string of about 100, and
That's an anachronism. I don't think I've seen that in used car lots in a long time.
You
Go right down,
County Connection.
go,
They don't
go,
have them up, do they?
They did, I don't know if they still do, yeah.
go right down Route 1, you see them today, right down there. Lindsay's.
Well, I think we're saying no, not in this district, fine. And
Okay,
we can
that's
talk
fine.
about it in BI district.
Okay.
Do it in the BI
Okay.
district, do it in
Yeah,
the CCN district, terrific. I think we're just saying in this particular district, no.
and if it poses a
If
problem,
it's a
they'll
problem,
let
we'll
us
change
know
it.
about it.
We just have to put Italian flags up or something instead.
Okay.
Well, you know, the other thing that could be really interesting, you know, one thing we didn't address, and I don't know why I'm bringing this up, because it means it's something to talk about still on this, but, see, Ann's groaning behind me. Is the question always of umbrellas. Now, right now, we don't have them, but we, you know, people will have, you know, I think of like the lobster, you know, the lobster place putting out umbrella tables out there.
Well,
Now, that's an outdoor cafe by all intents and purposes.
well, what about the truck, though? They've got the truck, right?
Well, you know, that's you know, that's an issue that frankly,
Exempt, isn't it?
no, we have no regulations in the town. You know, when Stephanie was bringing that before the selectmen, they turned to me and said, well, what zoning regulations regulate this? And I said,
None.
absolutely none.
Right.
You remember that meeting? You were there, weren't you? Both of you guys were there. And I said, there's none. There's no regulations on that. We don't have a vendor's license in this town. So ice cream trucks, lobster roll, anything portable, any portable vending is not regulated by the town of Arundel. Now, usually, quite frankly, that is something that is regulated usually by the selectmen, because it's really pertaining to safety and automobile traffic. That's a traffic issue more than it is a zoning issue. For people who have fixed restaurants and fixed facilities that they pay taxes on, and believe they have that such vendors have an unfair advantage, it's a big deal. And there's always a big war between restaurateurs and those who are operating out of what, for all intents and purposes, are canteen trucks. Canteen trucks are permitted on job sites because that's a different source of it. But, you know, good humor trucks, you know, ice cream trucks, you know, sandwich trucks and lobster trucks, you know, like that. That's something that's a real problem.
I don't know that's, we don't have much of that going on. I don't know that we need to worry about that at the
Well,
moment.
I mean,
Well, but when the time comes, we can always take care of that.
Yeah, the question is,
But-
I think it's the selectmen who will take care of it. I don't think it's a zoning issue.
My real question was
So
that,
either. And it's one of those things that's self-policing anyways.
But
Because you're not gonna find 10 hot dog vendors all of a sudden piling on a small area when nobody's.
Unless you're in Tommy's Park. Then you regulate them.
Yep.
my question really concerned the signage on a truck or something like that. How does that count within
What
the
number?
signage ordinance?
5.7.12, number 15, last page. Vehicular signs.
See, we didn't even get into this because this is in the performance standards. I pulled this
I forgot
out.
what he wrote.
I forgot what I wrote. I wrote this so long ago.
It's already addressed.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, well, they're exempted.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're on
They're
a
allowed.
vehicle.
Yeah, they're on the vehicle. However, there's also a section in here regarding the placement of those trucks.
So as long as it's a licensed vehicle, it's okay.
Yeah. It's gotta be a licensed vehicle.
But there also has to be adequate parking, as we've been through this before, and it's come to the planning board at one time or another.
You're right, Marty. You're absolutely right. That
And
is,
safety and pullovers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
We had it
adequate, yeah.
down, we had it down in the BI district. and they wanted to be along the side of the road, and we've been through that before.
Now, that came to the planning board, or did that go to the select?
It came to us, yeah,
Came
Yeah.
to you?
yeah.
First, it came to us.
Under what guise? Does anybody remember? Do you remember what that was, Marty?
It was classified as a business,
Food
And that's
service or something.
food service,
Okay.
and it got shoved to us. And it was down at where, almost down across where the tattoo place was, across the street,
Okay, isn't
where
that
the car place
car
there.
place, yeah.
Didn't last long,
Didn't even open up.
yeah,
That was a hot dog vendor, right?
Yes.
He did open,
yeah.
didn't he?
No,
Briefly, no?
no, he didn't open up, the Chinese guy opened up. That was down next to Rainbow Market, and the next lot over,
Wasn't that Mr. Pack?
yes.
But wouldn't the fact that it's not listed as one of the allowable businesses mean that it's not allowed in this district?
Yeah.
So
So the
Well,
question is,
usually those type things for food, like your roach coaches or anything else,
yeah,
they come in and out.
right.
They aren't necessarily
And they're
a
on
permanent,
And they're on private property.
they're on private property. I
Well,
mean,
they're serving also an existing market that, you know, like a work crew. Like you got a construction crew, the canteen truck will show up.
Yeah, roach coach.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like they're drawing, it's not like they're a destination.
Not selling to the public, really.
They aren't selling to the public and the public's
They are.
stopping in. They're selling it to crews that are on a site. They go
Yeah.
to the site, they're almost like caterers.
Yeah,
That's
They
really
are.
what they are. They're caterers. They take the food to the site. They don't hang a shingle out and have people turn in.
Right.
So the issue is it is a use. Now those are catering and, you know, the portable catering, and I'm not sure I want to regulate those.
Well,
I
it's
think
the
that's
one-
a
It's
select.
the one that wants
but
the park to
Marty's
make
bringing-
it permanent himself to the.
Well, what he's saying, permanent. If it's turn it permanent, I mean it doesn't move. But if it moves, it's not
No,
permanent.
it isn't. But what it is it's still food service, and that's Marty's bringing up a good point. I mean, we may not be out of the woods on that whole issue of food service. I was going to bring up the idea of the umbrellas,
But
with
see-
the logo of Poland Spring or
But you see,
or
the other thing is,
cappuccino or something.
all those are governed in a different way by food handling.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
in terms
I mean,
of the actual the state's regulation of the food handling, but I mean from a zoning standpoint.
But we don't have it, we aren't gonna have it because turn on, first of all, you got too much traffic moving at too fast of a speed.
Well, I don't know, there's a few spots that could be ideal.
Simple.
Could be
Name
at
'em.
the flea market, you know, just
Flea
pull
market would be a
out,
great place.
great audience right there, there's people walking by and.
Someone had a hot dog cart at Aquaviva's.
That's right,
Yeah.
they did.
But that was in Bedford, that wasn't in Arundel.
But
Still
that
on
was
111.
that was still there, and they were getting a lot of turning traffic.
Yeah.
They're getting like that was ribs, wasn't it? I think
Yeah,
that was-
ribs,
Yeah.
It was ribs. It was,
Barbecue.
it was real
Barbecue
good stuff
ribs.
too. Whoops. Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna get hit with it, Marty. I mean, just because Stephanie goes to Kennebunk right now because it's a better market out there for her wares. At some point, whether it's her or somebody other or a competitor, if business does improve and if we do have more traffic and more turning traffic down by the lights, down at the crossroads, you know, there's no reason not to assume we might not get it because we've had it before.
In fact, Julie Kane that had the front porch and
Yeah.
she was considering, someone approached her about setting up a truck, it's a great visible location. Now it's
Yeah,
VIP.
Jack
is the-
Coffey went there,
Yeah.
but that was with the trailer type. It was Jack Coffey.
Okay, this is in our use section of the ordinance.
Yeah.
So if the majority of the group feel that this is an item we want to discuss further, I think when we get into the uses and we do the review, I would just
Come back
simply
with
ask
it.
that we annotate in our potential uses and have that discussion,
Later.
when we're gonna be focused on it, not going back and forth.
I would agree, Mr. Chairman, although, remember, in this new format, the use sections are the front of this section. It's not separate in the chart anymore. It's in the front section. It's the first thing that's on in the DB1, in this 7.2 section.
You want
And
to
it's-
keep
We are gonna have to deal with
I'm
it.
sorry?
You want to just
I
finish
wanna,
up
We
signs?
should finish
wanna
up
find
signs.
the signs, I wanna finish the landscaping, that's what the meeting was called for today. Was it called for that? What I will also remind the group is that we have a contractor that is doing a study. We're gonna have to go over all of the use tables again at a later date to see if there's adds, deletes, all of the other things. So my suggestion is we annotate on that use table, if you guys are acceptable, that that's an item that you want discussed or not. And that's why I asked if the majority of you felt it's an item that we want to deal with in our ordinance.
I think, first of all, I think we should put it aside for later, but I think we should come back to it, because we're gonna be getting approached for that. It seems like it's,
Okay.
But Tad did bring up an issue, and it's one that I brought up earlier in terms of umbrellas. And earlier we had decided that those would be considered canopies, but if a canopy is going to be limited to 30 days twice a year, that could be a problem for umbrellas in sort of like a little bistro setting.
I
So
thought they were going to
Well-
be excluded.
They could be
Well,
attached.
Let's put it this way.
they could be
Because
excluded,
if
but right now I don't think they are.
I thought it was gonna be, you know, it was part of a like the outdoor cafes, et cetera.
With advertising on them, like.
Yeah, we had that discussion.
We did, right.
Some of them have it, some of them don't, and we said,
The way I remember that discussion is that it would be considered either a canopy sign or a banner.
I don't know. I mean, if you take the ice cream place, if they had tables outside with some umbrellas and they had a little advertisement on top of the umbrella,
I mean, I personally have no problem with making those exempt,
I would too. Yeah.
but we should state it if that's what we want to do.
where do you draw the line? With the advertisement is for their business, then is that a banner, or is it a sign? Is
That's a sign.
Yeah. So, but you can advertise, Budweiser or something on it,
that they
and it's
sell.
not a sign?
Well, why can't you put it on, why can't you put the business name on the umbrella? What's the difference?
Why don't you just leave an umbrella alone?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, if we exempt them and just.
Well, I'll tell you why sometimes the umbrellas are given given away free with stock advertising, like Perrier.
Yeah.
Perrier does it a lot.
I mean, we're trying to develop a character, I think.
We are.
I think a little place that would draw people in with umbrellas and sidewalk, to me, that seems appealing. I don't know.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. In fact, I tried to get Teresa to do that over at the ice cream store and told her about Perrier and Poland Spring both have deals on umbrellas, but they didn't do that.
And it stops the ice cream melting faster.
I would think so too. They put up the canopy, which was good. The canopy was critical. We really pushed on that with them. You can put signage on that. That's an attached signage, so that's not a problem. It's just, I mean, if you want to exempt it, you're going to get all sorts of things, and you will get Budweiser, and you will get Pepsi, and you will get all that.
So-
and that's kind of, and that the question is that's the problem. I think I don't know if it's Kennebunk or Kennebunkport is having a battle with somebody.
Yeah,
Is it the
with
port?
Bartlett's, I think.
Yeah, Bartlett's. But
Yeah,
they've
they're
been,
right there on the bridge.
but they've had that for,
Okay, but look, besides whether they've had it, the point is that they're having an argument over it, right? Because is it Bartlett's signage, Marty, or is that like some supplier of beverages?
It was a supply of Perrier or something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that.
It wasn't, didn't say
Yeah, it
Bartlett.
wasn't,
So
it wasn't their name.
it wasn't their name, they were supplied
Yeah.
umbrellas.
So let me play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
If I had a business and I was looking to get more signs out there, I knew there'd be an exemption for these umbrellas. I just put an umbrella up and maybe I'll never serve food. I just have an umbrella. It gives me more signage. You know.
well, the only thing is, to be honest with you, when you put an umbrella up, who sees the top of the umbrella? Okay? An umbrella is above, so
You're pretty, they're made so you can see it, that's why they have.
They have flaps on the
It's
side.
the valance.
Yeah.
It's the valance on the side, you know, that drop-down section. And the valance is usually about 3 to 4 inches wide, so that's where they put it. Budweiser comes the
also
whole
they're
thing
turning
with the
just the
logo.
top, they're talking about the top of it.
Yeah,
But I mean,
Budweiser.
who's gonna see the
come
top
whole
of
thing.
it?
Nobody's gonna see the top.
Nobody
That's
can.
usually not where the sign is. So Budweiser puts a Budweiser
Yeah.
logo across the whole thing, so it drops down.
And with their colors,
With their colors and so forth. Perrier just puts it on that valance, and most of the advertising, Poland Spring puts it on the valance. So
So,
the issue is the valance, and what happens is people max out their signage, okay, and then they get these umbrellas, and they put them up, and the code enforcement officer says, goes and measures, and it's 6 inches by 4 inches, and you know, it's on 3 sides, and he's got 4 of those, and he adds it up, and you're 10 feet over on your signage. Get rid of it.
well, I don't have a problem with it.
I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill.
I don't know.
So I'm just
Well,
curious,
if not,
do you
then
have to have a seat or a table under the umbrella, or if you just have the umbrella, that's like a daily sign?
I think you'll have very disappointed customers. that
Well, I
don't
think,
see-
I think umbrellas would, see, to me, that would be limited to like eating facilities that have an outside.
That's
thing
the
or
notion we all
rain or-
have, but,
Yeah, but I
but we're
mean,
not saying it has to be.
well,
They-
we haven't said anything yet.
Yeah.
We're just discussing, are we even going to allow the banner, and then we'll decide under what circumstance. Are we going to allow them or not, I should say, not that we're going to.
I mean, the way it's written right now, if I were enforcing this, and somebody put up a Perrier thing, I think I'd just do the same thing as Waterstone over in Kennebunkport. I'd have to say, look, that's a sign. That's defined as a sign. By our definition, that's a sign. And you've got to blanket over, or you've got to get umbrellas that don't show that, that are devoid of any of that. And that's the issue. I mean, because that is by our definition a sign. It's a graphic intended to advertise a product. So,
Well, I'll just go ahead and make a motion that we exempt umbrella advertising from our banner regulations.
I'd like to amend that to say that providing it's attached to a table.
Well, wait, that can come during discussion. We have a motion. Anybody want to second that?
yeah.
Okay, Marty seconds it. Okay, open to discussion. You have a discussion point?
Yeah, if we're gonna allow umbrella signs, they should be attached to a table. Like what Tom just said, somebody takes an umbrella, gets additional signage.
I would, you said exempt from canopy. And I
No,
would-
exempt from the banner regulations. Maybe it should be the signage.
It's just the
yeah,
signage.
signage.
That was gonna
Should
be my-
signage.
Yeah, that was gonna,
Right, I'll
They-
keep my.
You narrowed it down too much, it should be broader.
Right, you're right. Okay,
Sign
with
I
the,
may withdraw and then you rephrase it.
well, I can
well, it's okay, that's
rephrase
what
it, but
discussion is for.
attached to a table, I understand what you're saying, but if you say attached, that means
Through a
that
hole.
you couldn't have one sitting next to a picnic table, you know, maybe associated with, but attached
Anchored?
to.
An umbrella is always usually anchored,
Yeah,
so it has to have a base.
Yeah, but it
Right.
doesn't have to be a.
but it doesn't have to be attached to a
Attached to the
table
table.
per se. A table could be sitting next to a picnic bench or something like that, could be in the ground.
Could be associated, use that
Yeah.
term, associated to seating or table.
Associated with
In conjunction.
a table, right, because not just seating, because then you could just put a park bench out there with an umbrella.
How about it associate with the use instead of an object?
Yeah, it's gotta be a,
Yeah,
then
all right,
anybody could put a
associated.
picnic table outside.
Marty can put a picnic.
Marty could put a picnic table.
Right?
Associated with.
I don't know.
With an umbrella
You're
that's.
right.
I don't know.
Put the
Sure.
table
It's
up
tough
with
to find an
operators
umbrella
out there,
that's
you're
got
all-
like minus
I mean-
muffler or something on it.
Sure you could.
I'm
Sure you
I
could.
don't know
Sure you
nothing.
could.
They'll sell you.
Are we talking like businesses that serve food or drink outside.
I think you're getting way too
It would,
picky
it
now.
would have to be a rest,
Well,
an
I
outdoor
don't think it's
cafe
picky, I
type.
think that just opens it up.
Yeah,
for-
and I
mean,
think
that's
that's
the
the notion we're all
purpose we
thinking,
use.
that's where I think it
Yeah.
fit well, but.
So just what you just said, that yeah, I can't put a picnic table up with an umbrella on the back of my shop.
Sure you can. You
No, I
just
can't,
get-
even
no
say
advertising.
associated with
No.
food.
No,
As long
not
as
if
you
it-
don't put Perrier on it.
As long as you don't
Yeah,
have
keep your Perrier
advertisement on it.
signs off it. You're all set.
I don't think it's to prevent you from having a table out there for your employees to sit at.
It's just as said, has to be related to food.
No, only the advertising. You're talking about it.
That's if it.
It's
So
not
that's-
advertising.
Well,
Perrier.
mine might not have advertisement for food, maybe it might be car parts,
Right.
or it might be tires.
My daughter, Bill
Then-
Breaks, is gonna give you an umbrella.
Look in your crystal ball, where that's all we're doing, everybody's
But if-
foreseeing everything. I mean,
But if that was the case, you had brake pots on there, that I think should be considered as advertisement.
I don't.
Well, but why would you put an umbrella out there?
So it can get blown away. Most of the time, you got enough wind down Route 1, and an umbrella isn't gonna last anyway.
Well, if they're associated
Okay.
with food and beverage, they would be like an outdoor cafe, right?
Yes.
So why don't we just incorporate that into our outdoor cafe standards?
How would we word that?
I don't know, I'm
Outdoor
just
cafe.
looking up.
Yeah.
I'll leave it to the wordsmith over there.
Okay, so we
It
had a
would be
motion.
associated with, it would be associated with food service establishment and outdoor cafes.
Right.
So, like that.
So we would have to rewrite, now, I don't know if I can amend the motion or if we have to withdraw it.
Based on discussion,
Use
you're
the word
open to
signage.
amend your
So,
motion.
that,
We can vote it down and you can make another one, or you can
amend
just
it,
amend
so
it.
we'll amend it to say that the umbrella with, oh, how did I have that?
Ask Ann.
I'm drawing a blank.
Umbrella associated to.
Oh.
You
Signage.
said you wanted to exempt umbrellas from the signage regulations,
Right, but
only when associated. with-
only when associated. is that-
Umbrellas, what would
No,
be
only when-
umbrellas, and making umbrellas, not canopies, because
Right, yeah.
it'd
it's
be
umbrella.
umbrellas carrying or containing advertising of food products or advertising,
Or just advertising.
just advertising, are exempt from the
Signage.
sign ordinance, provided they're associated with a food service or outdoor cafe establishment. Okay?
Is there a difference between food service and outdoor cafe?
No.
No.
No,
Well, I don't-
outdoor,
Just make it
well,
food service.
yeah, an outdoor cafe is something we really haven't talked much about. We have it in our ordinance right now. We have limitations on how big they can be. They're only
Because
20%.
That fell into the seating regulations, if you remember.
That's right. That's right. And basically, right now, they're 50. They have to be 49%, or
Right.
one less than 50%.
Right.
So
Yeah,
we
but
do
it's
have a
still the
standard
same
for outdoor
business.
cafe.
But, did you get that?
Let me
Ann?
read it back to you,
If
see
you
if it
could,
matches.
please.
Umbrellas containing advertising are exempted from the sign ordinance, provided they are associated with a food service or outdoor cafe establishment. Is that the word you used?
Food service establishment or outdoor cafe.
Right,
Food service
Now.
establishment.
Question for you.
Is that a motion, John?
that's a motion, that's my amended motion.
And is the original second,
Second.
Marty, you're in
I'll
agreement?
second.
Okay.
Now, food service, okay. Now, does a tavern fall under that?
Food and drink.
Because it doesn't turn out the same food. And it's outside.
Right, the way we defined a tavern was that it
I'm
was
just-
predominantly to serve alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, they
Well,
don't-
we're not saying it's a restaurant, we're saying food service. I don't think we have a
Well,
definition
yeah.
of food service.
No, but that's a good point Marty's bringing forth, because
I think
if we
it
say
should.
food
I think-
services and exclude taverns, do we want to do that?
No, I don't think it.
Because right now, a tavern, I don't believe would be considered food service.
Well, they,
You know,
they
the
have,
accessory
they
use
have,
though,
they,
they-
yeah, the food is the accessory to the drink in the tavern.
Yeah, but-
In the,
You stretch it. You're right, but you're stretching the definition.
Yeah, remember we had a major
We had a
discussion
huge-
about that.
We had a huge issue.
that was gonna be the difference between a tavern or the
Yeah.
bar, what were they classified as before? Bar was predominantly alcohol.
No, it says Marty on it.
In the tavern. The hotels, although they had food and stuff, they were predominantly more food. And then
Look up
that's
the
the
definition.
definition, right?
What we had originally is we had no definition for a tavern. This whole thing started because we had a definition of a restaurant that did not include taverns. That's where Bentley's ran into the problem because of the use. Because we had no
Right, but
definition.
what we're really concerned about though is that if we say food service, does it exclude the tavern?
No, because the tavern says establishment was
We have a definition.
where drink is served or consumed by the public. The fact that food is also served does not disqualify an establishment from being a tavern. So I think it shows,
that they're serving food.
yeah, so I think it's included in the definition.
You could also amend it to say food and beverage.
Yeah, I was gonna say including taverns.
Or food and beverage.
Is that getting
Too
detailed?
specific,
Yeah,
yeah.
too specific.
But it's a good point though, because we don't want to
I
exclude
want to
that.
exclude it. No, I don't think.
The only thing we have with drinking establishment is a tavern, or is there something, is there,
Restaurant.
but I mean, just for, we don't have bars, we don't have, well,
The club, the private club.
Do we have a definition for outdoor cafe? That might be the easiest way to do it.
No. We have restaurant.
The outdoor-
Definition for outdoor
the out-
cafe.
Restaurants include
Without you
outdoor
guys, without your knowledge.
cafes.
I'm sorry?
We have a definition for restaurant, and at the end of it, it says this includes outdoor cafes, decks, and picnic tables.
But because right now there's some ambiguity as to whether it would include taverns in our definition, why don't we just say, in parentheses, including taverns, and that would just take care of it.
Is that your motion?
So, yeah, I'll amend it to do that, just at the end of that,
Including
including taverns, and that way, there's no question that we need to do that.
So,
So,
Speak it again.
Umbrellas containing advertising are exempted from the sign ordinance, provided they are associated with food service establishments, outdoor cafes, including taverns.
yeah.
For me.
Works for me.
Okay.
Take a vote.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, you're gonna let me.
Good job, what do you got?
Well, how about if we come up with a definition of food service? So we don't have to say taverns. Food service, a place that serves food and drink.
Well, that's what we were gonna put, was just food and beverage, but we've had motion, we've had a second.
well, we can certainly.
Because that would
I
cover
mean,
taverns, that would
foods-
cover,
food-
you know what else it would cover? It would also cover the guy
Hotels,
who's got hotels, motels, it would also cover, it would cover JJ's.
Okay, why don't we do
Jay
that next
Brothers.
meeting, why don't you come up with a definition
Okay.
for us, and then we can make the modifications.
But
So you're
JJ
gonna come up with a
doesn't
definition
have
for what?
any,
Food
Food
service.
service
Yeah, food service.
establishment?
They provide food on site. It would
not
also mean,
outside under picnic tables or
no, but they
ban-
can, now they could. And the same thing with Stephanie, if Stephanie wanted to put up umbrellas and picnic tables by her, let's say she's gonna take her, her van and park it in Arundel this year on her property, and she's gonna put up 3 picnic tables with umbrellas, that would cover her as well.
Okay.
Now, she's not gonna be defined as a restaurant, by our definition, she's gonna be called food service by the state, but, it might cover a lot more people than just, right now, all we've got who can really qualify for it would be, Seafood, Center. Because they're just about the only restaurant we get trade winds.
Well, the ice cream shop, any.
And that's not a restaurant though, see, that's the point, that's not a restaurant, that's a food service.
Right.
Well, we don't define food service.
We don't have a definition, I
Right.
wrote one, but it's not in
So,
here.
let's do that.
Would,
I think food service.
all of the
Yeah,
restaurants.
we don't wanna exclude ice cream.
We only have one restaurant.
What, you got the seafood center, you got the seafood center, you
Right.
got the
Rundle House of Pizza.
Rundle House Pizza,
Okay,
you've
well,
got
steak.
breakfast shop, Jack and
Jack and
Jill,
Renee's.
Jack and Renee's. I'm sorry.
Which is seasonal.
And
No.
Somebody
no,
eventually.
They're around.
Open again? Are they open?
what about, I see, I'm just
You
looking.
gotta run the market?
You've got wings, a Winks
Winks.
and a Rundle Market.
Wings, Rundle Market, all
Hey,
of those. could
that's
be-
not really a restaurant.
Dave
But see,
Brothers.
those wouldn't
Not?
qualify, no, they wouldn't qualify
Why?
as a restaurant.
They're food
Why?
service.
Because that's not their primary service, is it?
They're stored.
They're
Half,
store.
half
The
of
motion
it.
was, but the motion was intended to say those that are associated with food service or serve food.
Serve food.
Not a, it didn't have to be a food service industry.
Right.
But
I think the best way to go is just to get a definition and
They're
then
clear.
make the amendment in the.
Yeah, you don't want caterers setting up tables.
Well, caterer by nature cannot serve on site,
Right.
so I don't have to worry about that.
Why not?
He or she, because
Well,
if
they
he or
go
she
to their own
starts doing that, then I got a zoning violation, because a caterer by its very nature cannot serve food on site. The definition
I
of
hire a
caterer,
caterer to come on my.
that's
your
different
side.
on your
It's on
side.
their side, it's on your side.
But if
Caterer
we
doesn't have a
use a
site.
loose interpretation of food
Exactly.
service, then they would be allowed to.
Okay, that's a good point, excluding caterers.
So, again, definition of food service for the next
Okay.
thing. I believe that concludes our signage design. Like to move into item number 2, landscaping and lighting.
A round of applause for that.
First, it's not over yet.
I'm sorry?
We'll revisit it.
We'll read this.
What? What wasn't over?
No, signage isn't
Being
over.
facetious here.
Oh, I'm being facetious.
Oh, yeah, we'll be back.
We'll be
We
back.
were celebrating a little bit.
Greg was starting to go whoopee. All right, so landscape. Okay,
727,
727. Now, if you remember, this is in adjunct to landscaping in 7 and 5. Got your books. I've got so much signage stuff in here, so I don't even. Oh, maybe I don't. No, I do, because you're the one who brought it up to me that time. Was it you brought it up to me when we were doing the landscaping? Yeah. Or was it Greg? I think it was Greg who brought it up to me.
What's that?
Landscaping. The whole issue of buffering and, remember buffering and, what was it?
15 foot.
What do you guys do?
15
We-
I don't
foot.
remember, it
We'll
was a
blame
while
Greg.
ago. Blame me.
yeah.
It was when we were doing, farm retail.
It's 5344, landscaping,
5344?
in the performance standard, section
Yeah,
5.
thank you. Yeah, 53,
4.4, page 53, in section 5.
I've got all the signage all over the place. And guess what? I don't have it here.
5344, page 53. Keep going, 5 more pages. Come on, 3 more. Come on, right there. You're almost there.
Wait a minute. No, that's just for parking lots.
We're just gonna do
5344,
trees
Greg's right, page 50, your landscaping.
That's only, yeah, but that's only, no, that's only for parking lots. It wasn't landscaping in general. That's only landscaping for parking lots. Okay, well,
Oh, wait a
anyway.
minute,
You got it?
Is it 5, landscaping is 5.6?
That's, landscaping's 5.6, that's right. If I looked at the,
Page 64.
we're close.
you guys are better readers than I was all the signage crap in there.
I just had luck on my side tonight. I was
What
closing and
section?
not open to it.
Page 64.
5.6?
Landscaping.
Landscaping and buffering.
I think I took it out and
Yeah,
gave
but
it
what
to
section? Hey,
I
Pat.
did. I don't have
Section 5.
Would you like to share?
it. I would like to, thank you. I don't have it. So that's an adjunct to this, okay? So when we go through here, I think there's a few references to it in here. All right? But essentially, all we're doing is we're adding special landscaping in this section. For the DB1 district. Okay? And so that landscaping is saying basically any new construction in the DB1 district, you're going to have a front yard strip, landscape strip of 15 feet wide, established in the front yard of the property between the building and the public street or private way, and consisting of vegetated ground cover, shrub planting material, and/or street trees. Sidewalks and courtyards may be located within the landscape strip. Then we had street trees shall be installed in the front yard of any property fronting a public street, and no less than one street tree for every 50 feet of frontage. Street tree specimens will be selected from the approved list of street trees for the town of Arundel. Street trees located under or in proximity of overhead utility lines shall be selected for the appropriate dwarf tree specimens from the approved tree list. And we had existing vegetative stands. The requirement for street tree plantings may be waived by the planning board or the staff review committee, provided the existing vegetation, existing trees are located in the front yard and will be preserved to accomplish the intent of maintaining a street tree canopy along the public street. And then 4, parking lot planting strips. This is kind of repetitive because it's already in section 5.6, but it's just to make sure nobody forgets it. In other areas besides the front yard, a minimum of 5-foot planting strip consisting of vegetated ground coverage, trees, shrubs, or trees shall separate parking areas and driveways and parking lots and buildings, except in those situations where a paved and curb sidewalk is provided between the building and the parking lot. Plantings for all other parking in the DB1 district shall conform to the standards of, and that, why is that 3? 5, 6. Oh, no, it is,
that's
because it
parking
says
lot.
parking in the other one, yeah.
Right.
Okay. So that's section 5, 3, 4, and that's 1, 4. 4 of this ordinance, which is the parking section under.
Yeah, I didn't think it was.
And we have side yard planting strips, and this one bothers me a little bit, but we talked about it. A 10-foot wide landscape strip meeting the buffering standards of section 5.6.5.2 shall be installed along the side lot lines unless a coordinated landscape plan between the properties is approved by the planning board.
I have one good question for you. You want to put all that there, okay? And where are you supposed to put your stuff? And so you're gonna turn on and plow your snow, fill up all your bushes and everything else, and then come back and do them all over again every year.
No. No, because if you hire a landscape architect or a landscape contractor who knows what they're doing, they're going to put in species that are going to die back down in the winter and be unaffected by snow loading.
And it's gonna be the same thing with your trees.
Trees will be fine, usually, unless you
Well,
start
we-
whacking them.
Yeah,
But you're not
but-
going to put. But you're going to put them in a tree. You're going to put them in a tree island, and you just set them back enough, Marty, so that you're not. You're going to give. Actually, in our parking ordinance, we do have a requirement for snow loading, identifying snow load areas or areas in which you're going to dump your snow when you do your site plan. And your trees, you can easily design it so your trees are not in your snow dump area. And if you recall,
Snow dump.
yeah,
But
when you
you're
plow your
pushing
snow,
it.
when you push your snow, yeah. As you know, you're not gonna. Let's say you have a double loaded parking lot. Okay, we have parking on both sides with the center aisle, right? And it's going parallel. It's going parallel to the building orientation. You're not going to plow back and forth like this, and you've got your trees going along this side. You're going to drop your plow and you're going to run along the curb line all the way down and dump it at the end. That's what you're going to do. You're not going to plow it into the trees. So where you have your tree load, where you have your snow loading at the end, either end, depending on how you're going to do it, you're going to do a little back dragging, I assume, too. You're not going to put your trees in that location. Probably, if anything, it's going to affect your dumpster. But if you put your dumpster in the front yard,
Just like the green.
that's an impact green. So that's what I'm saying. You can make your design work so it doesn't affect it, honestly. The idea is to create, we're using landscaping not just for buffering, it's less of an emphasis on buffering, less of an emphasis on not seeing the guy next to us, because we're creating a denser area here, where we do want to see the guy next to us, which is my big question about 5. We do want to see the guy next to us. We want to see everybody. We want to buffer in appropriate, or incompatible uses. We want to keep the dumpster out of somebody's front yard. We want to keep the smoke vans from the restaurant not blowing into the outdoor cafe of the guy next door. But the landscaping in these cases is to soften and provide structure to the design. That's what it does. It really helps define it very much so, and really upgrades the image quite a bit.
So you're saying that for the side yard, it isn't as much of an issue?
Well,
We remember we had a big argument about side yards, and that's why we went to 10 feet. We said, why? If we're trying to create this dense area here, we need to have, I think, Marty, you really suggested we have a side yard of 10 feet because of ladders. Remember you were talking about maintenance of the house and so forth? We have ladders,
No.
we have, wasn't that you?
No, because I said, if you're gonna squash everything together, privacy or anything else, but I mean, it's not worth it.
Okay. Yeah, the only question was, when it comes to buffering from neighbors, it's really a question of giving the planning board, I would think, some latitude, and giving the applicants some latitude to provide buffering where you need it, and not really provide, complete buffering where you don't need it.
Yeah.
Provide definition, sure.
Well, I think you're gonna distinguish between buffering and screening.
We had that discussion, remember? Yeah, it's a question of visibility, how visible
Yeah.
that is, and those definitions are in 5.6.
well, I
Are
would
we
like to
reviewing
visit that.
5.6 right now, or what are we?
We're just reviewing this. I'm only making reference to 5.6 because we've talked about 5.6 before.
But look at 5.6, is there a problem there? Because I don't remember that. If you look at that, it
Okay.
says, shall achieve between 75 and 140 year-round visual obstruction.
Whoa, 140?
Yeah.
No such
Yeah.
thing as 140.
It says it right there.
75 and above.
Well, I guess that's a typo, isn't it?
Well, that's what kind of struck me when I was looking at it.
Whoa, no.
That's how you
That should
really-
be 100. That should be 100.
That's thick.
Yeah, that's 100. No, 140. I don't know. How do you achieve 140?
Well, and
So I
that was
really
That must be, that must be a typo.
That's when you
It
find
is a
your
typo.
crystal ball.
I'll
Of course,
guarantee
the
you.
0 is nowhere near a 4 on the keyboard, but it's a typo.
Thank you. Thank you for illustrating my complete
It was
failure.
it was a spelling checker that did it.
But under
Thank you, John. That's what it was.
Under 5.
It was Microsoft.
Under
You
5.
must have been doing it on the cell phone.
Yes.
Under 5.6 itself, can we look at 5.6.3 for street trees?
5.6.3?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. If we go to item 2, we're saying that they have to be installed within the right of way of a public street. And then if we look at A, that center of the tree is located no further than 25 feet from the right of way. Property line, and then the property owner grants, seems to be a conflict. And I think that.
I don't see it.
Well,
You don't see a
there is a conflict in the sense that it has to be planted in the right of way. I mean, this is really, the problem with this is, since this is a performance standard for all developments, and this is for street trees,
Yeah, right.
this is under street trees, not under trees, but street trees. What it's saying, this is for subdivisions, for private ways, if we're applicable for, projects, because, when we have a subdivision project or just a commercial project, the right of way is usually 40, 50 feet, and 50 feet.
Okay.
And they have, but you're right, I mean, there is a bit of conflict there, because in this particular zone, the state would let us put it in there. But the mandate that we put it in there, I think is a mistake. Because we could lose it just as easily, and frankly speaking, I'm not sure that's where we want to put it anyways.
But it does say where environmental conditions preclude preclude
Right.
installation of trees within the public right of way.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's why I said
we
that.
that.
Doesn't-
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to. Yeah.
Well,
But it also says the center of the tree located no further than 25 feet from the right of way. But that, again, is for a street tree. That's not for any tree. It's not for a landscaping tree, it's not for a parking lot tree. That's for a street tree.
Yeah.
Assuming that we're gonna have street trees, that's when, I mean, another standards. that
We haven't resolved the side yard issue.
No.
What's the setback we're proposing?
10 yard, 10 feet.
10 feet?
Yeah.
enough for
Yeah,
that.
Here would be requiring it, that full 10 feet would need to be filled.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think we need to do the same thing we did before, where we can put up a fence and do it. But I think at the same time, I'd like to see the planning board have some flexibility there.
Well, would we even need a fence? Like, I'm picking downtown Kennybunk.
Right.
Do
But-
we need fences or trees in
Yeah.
between?
In places where we have residences and versus commercial.
But we,
Or we
Well,
have existing.
between those, we have, there's other requirements in that regulation for setbacks between the commercial and residential.
In DB1. In DB1, you're not going back to the old ordinance, right?
I think we wrote it in DB1.
Say what?
wouldn't it be right in the section?
It should be right in 723.
I don't see it. 723?
Nope, it's not there. It's not there, Bob. We don't have a setback or a buffering requirement. We don't have a different setback
Okay.
for,
And since we're not really allowing single-family homes in here anyways, it's not like the existing where we want to provide a buffer between a residence and a business.
And we have some,
Question for you.
do we have some
Where we
homes allowed there right now?
yeah.
There are, yeah,
Where we've
there
had
are.
so much problems
Yeah.
along the way, one time or another, was with Bentley's and that buffering zone. Do we put in something in words so it's clarified?
Where there's a residence next to a business.
Well, but I mean,
Well, we allowed a fence.
yes, that was.
I don't
that was
mean
part
a
of it.
campground, but I'm not
I'm
talking.
just using that as
That's a good point.
I mean,
Well, remember, we also had a fence in the parking lot,
yes.
you know, where it abuts the adjacent
But
property.
we also had an adjacent hill too.
True,
But
but
I
he
mean-
still put in the fence.
Yeah, but I'm just saying is, between businesses, and if you want everything up on Route 1, you're gonna put all the buffering, then you aren't gonna see anybody
Right.
or anything.
Right.
And particularly if everybody's so much in and up front, who's gonna see anybody behind? And then you're gonna turn around and buffer and landscape the parking lots, so you're using less and less area, so you can't get anything or anybody in there.
Well, I think if we have buffers in which if we have screening, this really
Well,
doesn't
a
talk
permanent-
about screening in here, does it? I mean, you
No,
don't hear
but
the word
just-
buffering and screening in here.
You
You talk
just-
about landscaping, which is a lot different, because
You
remember.
look at the screening and the parking lots and everything else. You look how they wasted Shoppers Village.
Wasted?
Yeah,
Yeah, the whole scale of that is overkill anyways. Where they have 8 acres back there or something, and
no, I'm just telling you where the parking lot is.
I think it looks appropriate to me though, that type of thing. I think what they did there is a good result. I wouldn't mind seeing you're talking in Hannaford?
No, did I say
Which one?
Hannaford?
Which one? Which
Shop,
one?
where I said
Shoppers Village?
Shoppers Village.
In Kennebunk.
But which, so where is it
What's the-
wasted?
What's the issue there, Mike? Because I don't know what the issue
Well,
is.
when you turn around, they cut out with all the different type of landscaping in the parking lot and everything else. You cut out parking spaces totally.
If you have a 5-foot planting strip there, yeah, you're gonna have a little fewer parking spaces, but you make up for it in other locations. Remember, you're gonna be limited by a lot of these factors. The objective, Marty, remember, the objective here is not to take anything away from people, it's actually to improve the appearance of the place, to reinforce the character of that place, to make it look better, look it more attractive, because that's what you're trying to do. If you look at, here, I'll give you a different example, 302 going through, or excuse me, 16 going through North Conway. Now, you can't get a more intense commercial area than 302, or 16.
I don't know, never been up there.
You ever been up to 16? I've done 2 of them up there, 2 of those projects up there. And I'll tell you, they are very, very dense. There's a huge amount of traffic up there, and they're landscaped to death. Mainly because it defines areas that belong, parking areas that belong to certain businesses up there. It makes the place look better because it's a sea of parking, it's a sea of pavement up there, and the idea is to break it up so it doesn't look like a sea. And I think that's one thing that Sharpers Village doesn't do. I think of Sharpers Village as being all pavement. You know, they might have a couple trees here and there, but that's just all pavement. And then I look at Settlers Green in North Conway, and I just use that example because that's one of the densest places I've seen in a long time, outside of Kittery.
There's the summer, and it didn't feel like a sea pavement
No,
at all.
it didn't. No.
It didn't feel like you were in the middle of a Walmart parking lot.
Right.
And you knew where the store was, and yeah, it was well done. The same with the Hannaford, it's not nearly what Settlers Green does, but Hannaford and Kennebunk, it's just a few strips, and it just softens it a little bit, just enough.
Makes it more attractive, it makes it more inviting.
And I think
And
it
also cools the cars down in the summer.
Yeah, and I think it also, it's outside of the maximum percentage that they're allowed to build on, so they might, I don't know what it would, you know.
Well, it's exempted.
Yeah, it's exempted, so they're not gonna be able to use all that much pavement anyway. So they'll put in as much pavement as they're allowed, and then those buffers are exempted, so they still get the same amount of.
Yeah, they basically go in and cut the pavement,
Yeah.
put in the curbs, cut the pavement.
And then they get
backfill.
another spot someplace else to make up for it.
Right.
I think probably the more restrictive thing would be the amount of, what's it called, the ratio of buildable land that you can do, what's that ratio called?
Well, that's you mean coverage?
Coverage, yeah. But that's probably more restrictive than landscaping.
Oh, yeah. But ours is very generous.
Yeah.
Ours is
Yeah.
70%. You've got to go through a lot to put 70% on a lot.
Yeah.
You really do. I mean, look at it this way. Weirs, well, of course, Weirs has got all that land in the back, but, I mean, Weirs is close to 70%. And you know how much parking's there, how much pavement's there. You're not close to
There was discussion on that 10 feet though, needing to be open
Right.
for fire ladders,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Right.
If you have buildings,
Well, if
Adjacent
two of
to one
them,
another.
if 2 of them
Could be-
came
could be
up, yeah, so
20 feet altogether.
well,
For-
potentially, so, I mean, for that side yard that's abutting something else, I don't think we want a requirement unless there's something else there.
Well, that's, and that's why I brought up the point that
Yeah.
I'm not real comfortable with that one yet. Because I know first of all, we got fire protection, fire access. We've got utility access. I mean, going back and getting your dumpsters, making deliveries or whatever you're going to do on some of your side yards. And then there's some places, as you said, down in Kennebunk where it's real dense, and we're not going to get that dense here. I don't think. If we do, that's wonderful. But I don't think we're going to get that kind of density. It's not necessarily beneficial to put landscaping between everybody. And what are you doing? You got one business next to another. Why are you trying to hide each other?
Yeah.
And
What would the
in many
point of it
cases,
be?
we're linking the parking lots.
Yeah.
We're trying to get these guys to link their parking lots. So maybe we should just leave that very flexible for the planning board. Where it butts a building.
Site location will determine the need for that side yard buffer.
Landscape,
Something.
landscape, just make a landscape. instead of buffering. 'Cause
And-
remember,
and-
buffering is
yeah, I
70
know.
to 140%.
The only other question that I had in the proposal, we've got it at 40 feet on, when we did it on the board down in the other room, I thought we had it at 90 to 100 feet between the trees, saying that there was gonna be, on the larger trees, a 40-foot canopy so that you'd have those open places. So you'd have 40 on this tree, 40 on that tree, and then a space where you'd see through.
Okay, what you would have are two different environmental conditions. In a normal, let's say, lawn tree setting, you take a tree and you put it, Norway maple, hideous tree, but Norway maple. Usually that's like a 40-foot canopy, if not a 50-foot canopy. In a street
I'm
tree.
just going by what I think you told us.
I know, and I was thinking about it, going, wait a second, let's remember something here. You know, when you put it in a lawn tree situation where it's got lots of room to grow out, yeah, it can achieve those canopies. When you put it in a constricted space, like some of these planting strips and so forth, that's not gonna grow more than 15 feet in width, because it's constrained. It's like putting a plant in a pot.
Bonsai.
It's, exactly, you're bonsaiing it by restricting the roots. That's why you see these downtown plantings that have, in all these downtowns around us, you'll see the trees seem to be always kind of a little stunted. Well, they're stuck in pavement. They got 5 feet, they're in a pot that's 5 feet by, 3.5 by 3.5. I mean, they're basically stunted. So, and that's why I said, well, let's get them a little closer. Let's get them 50 feet's a good distance. They're never going to be 50 feet touching. Never. And some of these that are fast to get, or excuse me, columnar, like the Armstrong maples that are on the list that I haven't put together for you guys, I will put that together. Those are especially important in places like Weirs, or a place that has outdoor display that you want the people to see. These trees have very, very narrow canopies, so you can see between them very, very easily. And actually, I believe that Mike Aquavita has some Armstrongs up there. He put in some Armstrongs, which, as I said, are more columnar. They'll never get more than 15 feet in width. So when they're 50 feet apart, there's lots of room to see in between. Versus
15
what?
feet in width?
No, 50 feet between
Yeah, but you
trees
said
on center.
15 feet
Yeah,
in width.
yeah,
15 feet in width.
yeah. On Armstrong, it's 15 feet in width.
The canopy,
The canopy,
yeah.
not the trunk. The
That's,
canopy. It's
That's a hell
Yeah,
of a-
that's evergreen. There you
I
go.
mean,
would
well,
be-
well,
that'd be-
you know, just.
We'd be living in that.
That's it.
That'd be
Put up
a
fence.
tree house.
That's as big as
Does
it's
that
wrong.
make sense?
That's what they are.
It's only 7.5 foot on one side? I thought I'd seen huge ones.
You can, but not that Armstrong one.
So I have a question
So you
about
can
this.
put
Or another
down
one,
with
the
plow.
calorie pairs. Here's another example for you to look at. Have you been on Main Street in Old Orchard, right? The trees that are there, those are a pear. Those are flowering pears. They don't fruit, and they're going to grow probably about 10 feet in width. Right now, I think these are about 8 feet in width, because you got a sidewalk there, and you got parking cars there. And so they grow very columnar. And I think in many cases, you're going to get to you get to advise the. We're going to give choices to the applicants, and you're going to advise them.
So I have a question about the street trees, that, how they add up to the 563
Yeah.
versus the new one here, number 2. Now this one says it has to be in the right of way. The other one says private, or on any property fronting the. It doesn't really mention. They live together? I guess.
Okay.
5632 is what you're looking at.
5632. Yeah, the location we were just looking at.
Right.
Versus
This new.
7.
Yeah, whatever number we're on. 7272.
Okay, street trees.
This is installed in the front yard of any property, the new proposal,
Yeah.
whereas the other one, it's in the right of way.
Right.
Well, aren't we thinking that there's gonna be
sidewalk,
That's what we're thinking.
or a train.
Well, we're hoping for a sidewalk, yeah, a trail, sorry. We're hoping for a trail through there, a paved trail.
Concrete trail.
That's probably the bituminous.
And whose property is that on?
It'd be on, it's either gonna be on private or public property, probably be on public. But if we can get easements from everybody, it'd be on private. But it'd probably be on public.
So if we do it,
And who's maintaining that?
Oh, we'll probably end up maintaining it, or we'll ask, we'll maintain it.
so if you
On
have,
Route 1,
Sure.
okay? And you turn and do that, the way it's snowed and everything else down there. In the wintertime, you aren't maintaining it.
Well, then we'll do what Portland does, and South Portland does, and Scarborough does. You got a sidewalk in front of your house or your business, you go out and clear it. Or you're fined if you don't.
if we have the front yard
I prefer
setback,
not to do that, but,
front yard setback is 20 feet.
right.
And that could include the sidewalk, or the sidewalk can be in the public right away.
I would say probably the sidewalk's gonna be in the public right away.
Okay.
Because
Why
negotiating all
don't they
those
just use
private
it as a
areas-
breakdown line?
We already have a breakdown right there. No, it's bigger than that, really. It's about 5 feet, 5, 6 feet.
Okay. Are
I
you,
really like to
are
get
you
bicycles
comfortable
to
that
pedestrians
there's
on
not,
the
I had
sidewalk.
exactly
don't-
the same
I don't-
question,
All right, so
I don't
what-
see how these,
So you don't, we need to mesh them better, is what you're telling me? We're grinding gears?
well, that's exactly the point that I had brought up earlier, and when we look, when we look at our landscape and buffering here, a couple of things come to mind. Here we've got a wide variety, 40 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet on center in the overall performance standard. For ours, for the street trees, we're gonna have a very specific, and I can understand that for the district, 50 foot on center. Are they gonna have these same options? I mean, talk confusing, right now, our current one is confusing because you have to go back and forth.
Right.
And here it seems like we're going to say it's 50, and then they're gonna have to come back to the regular one
I
and
don't wanna
see
do
all
that.
the,
I don't wanna do that.
yeah.
I want the standard to be in here. I put 50, and I guess I've gotta make it clear that this supersedes this.
Okay, that's what I wasn't clear about, sir.
I think we've gotta make one supersede the other, because the objective of putting landscaping in this section is if it deviates from this section. This is the standard that applies everywhere.
I guess I figured that already.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
we
it
don't.
doesn't state so.
I gotta say that's standard.
You have a general standard and then you have a specific
A specific standard for
standard.
this
The
district.
general standard holds until the specific standard is in
Supersedes.
conflict and
Is in
supersedes.
conflict, and that becomes a part of
And then
the
it be-
introductory of the overall regular.
The specific supersedes the general.
However,
But there's two specific,
No, no,
Exactly.
you look
This
at
one counts.
the ordinance as a whole. This is a general ordinance to all zones. This is specific to a certain zone. You follow this until you're in this zone, and then you follow these supersede what's
as
in
long as
there.
it's clear to the.
Well, that's
actions
law,
of-
that would be contract law, that would be any kind of law.
We're-
You have general specifications and specific specifications, specific hold over general.
Okay, I can live with that.
any other issues with the,
Yeah, I haven't,
I can make it clear because if you look at the preamble in the applicability section, 5, 6, and one of the reasons why this looks confusing is because we really haven't dealt with this. Because this is in the performance standards.
exactly.
We haven't really dealt with this, but I have to deal with it in writing this section. I have to make sure that this section exists.
Yep.
Okay? They've got to be able to mesh together, and if they don't, then I'm going to have problems. But the applicability section says basically all new construction of non-residential and multifamily residential uses requiring plenary, site plan review, or conditional use permit shall be subject to the following performance standards for landscaping and buffering.
That's exactly what it says under 5.6, our general performance.
That's
standards. 5.6,
exactly it.
right.
That's it.
Exactly
And
the
the
same.
only thing you could say, or shall apply, except where otherwise specified in the district standards. If you want to put that in there to make it very clear.
Oh, that could help. Yeah, that could help.
Did you get what I
Can
said?
you say it again?
I'm not sure.
Under 5.6.1,
Yeah, 561 applicability, except,
Except,
As otherwise specified.
thank you, except as otherwise specified in
This section.
zoning district standards.
There we go. Okay. You got all your buffering, you got all your pathways, this, that, and everything else. But one question is, where everybody's ignored it, and it's still ignored today, how are you gonna see it? It's not even written,
No,
and
it isn't.
and
Unless
if
you-
you don't write it, you aren't gonna see it. And it's more important to put buffering or anything else down, okay? But you still ain't gonna see it.
Well, let me answer you this, Marty, are you
you ain't
advocating?
gonna
what?
see what, Marty?
Wait,
I'm
I know,
sorry.
I know he's talking about lighting. So let me ask you, are you
Why
advocating
didn't
that?
the lighting in?
Are you advocating
I agree with you.
that the private property owner is gonna be responsible for street lighting?
Well, not. I mean, everything else is going on. You're gonna jam them with the sidewalk, you're gonna jam them with everything, with the trees and planting it, and now you're gonna jam them with light? I mean,
I don't see a place in here where we're requiring the building of sidewalks.
you talk about sidewalks,
We're trying to get money to do sidewalks. We're trying
Do
to
a
get
public
money
sidewalk.
to do it. We're trying to get money. We still have to discuss the lighting and where to go. At one of our meetings, we had, as a group, kind of said that we felt that there was several options. One of the options being that the town needs to invest some, we believe could be shared between that. All of that hasn't come to fruition. We haven't gotten to the sign, to
Well,
the street lights.
And some of it is not gonna be just our decision alone.
Oh, it goes to the
Selectmen have
selectmen,
to-
that's the money.
You know, I think we're gonna have to make a presentation to the selectmen, Marty, and say, look, we have, there's an area, we're trying to create a character area down there. You know, we have a problem that there's inadequate lighting for safety purposes. If we're gonna make this into a dense area, we're gonna need public lighting. Now, are you prepared to participate in this? To what level are you prepared to participate in this? Or shall we slap this on the private sector and see where it comes from then? I mean, we can, right now, I can write a lighting ordinance in here that requires them to put in streetlights. Frankly speaking, do you think that's fair that they provide public lighting, public street lighting? I don't. I don't think the private property owners should provide public street lighting. But I think maybe they might contribute with the town. If the town were making a commitment to put in public street lighting, then maybe you might be able to get some sort of TIF district going for it, or a voluntary, or a maybe a method of getting credits, you know, some sort of credits. I'm not sure how I can't do it.
Okay.
In the tax law, I can't do. But, I mean, to come up with a policy and an agreement between the business community and the town on how we're gonna handle lighting down there. But the only thing we can do right now in this ordinance with lighting would be to require private property owners to put in street lighting. And I don't think the board I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I don't know if the board feels comfortable doing that.
I don't think any of the board does what, I mean, I'd like to move on out of lighting because that's not the purpose of the meeting tonight, though. We were kind of waiting for what our contract service that is looking for the future and so forth, what they feel the town needs to kind of commit to.
Yeah, I
so
think,
forth.
I'll tell you honestly, I don't think they're gonna give us that kind of level of design standard. What I'm asking them for, or what they're gonna give us, is what kind of businesses, are we barking up the right tree? When we're assuming that we're gonna get certain kinds of businesses in here, is that what the market shows? And do we need, what kind of infrastructure do we need to provide for them? And that's more on a do we need sewer? You know, it's more on a level of major infrastructure. Do we need sewer? Do we need a 3-lane highway? Do we need, if we need a turning lane in the middle of that, that's gonna mess up some of our trail plans and so forth. I think that's the only thing that we're gonna be getting from them. But he's not gonna review our zoning proposals. We're gonna adjust to what he says. rather
He
than-
was gonna identify the area, I'll go back and read what you had sent out, because I kind of went through that whole thing. I thought he was gonna make recommendations as to the types of businesses
Yes.
that came in,
Yeah.
and what infrastructure the town might have to
Right.
commit to in order to be able to draw them.
Right. I think it'll be general. Well,
That's
okay.
okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Is that
Yeah, it
not,
could
was
be.
that not part of the proposal that
Yeah, it
went
was.
out, I think?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I
so
just
we're
didn't think
waiting
you would
until-
tell us about lighting. I didn't think you
Oh.
would weigh in on lighting.
Not to what degree and so
Yeah.
forth, but would that be beneficial to bringing them in? I think at an
In
overview.
an overview,
But
yes.
you need to be able to get that support from a lot of different roads, EDC, from that report, the planning board, and then eventually from the townsfolk, so that's where the money comes.
I want,
That's what the streetwork comes.
back to number 4, I have a few questions. One is that the minimum 5-foot planting strip it needs to consist of vegetative ground cover, shrubs, or trees.
And it should
what-
be and, please make
It's
that
a-
correct.
it said
in tree, okay, that's what I meant in, so or was scratched out, so what we're saying is they must have
Have trees.
trees and shrubs and grass. That's what this says.
Yeah.
Why would
That
you
was
need-
the last
what-
change that was voted.
That was the last change of movement.
I think that's too much.
I do. Too much?
Do we?
I think we should just say it should be landscaped and, you know, to the approval of the planning board. Just different situations call for different landscaping, you know, sometimes.
If you have the green vegetation buffer, that's fine.
Well, see, but we're requiring trees.
That's
Right.
saying, oh, or saying.
There's a
No, no.
Well, remember, this is not in, this is not, this is
Parking
not
lot.
front.
Parking.
This isn't, this is between the building, this is that strip, okay? Between the building, between the parking lot and the building. And usually,
Oh,
what I'm thinking of is, you have your access road coming in, if I've got an Elgin, I wish I had drawn
that's
something.
okay. I got it.
What it is
I
that
was
strip
off
of the
to
parking?
front, I guess.
Yeah,
Along
along
that
the big-
access road
Yeah.
between the building and the parking, it separates the parking from the building.
So if there were shrubs along there, or
Grass
nice
or
trees,
trees, so the end should go in and so
So-
they can put in what they want.
Or what you guys specify.
Yeah.
You know, it
Yeah,
doesn't
I
say
think-
how much. Doesn't say how much. It's no
But-
different than what we
I
did
guess-
with,
But-
with Cushing, W. Cushing, remember?
Yeah. But that was a little bit of give and take.
Yep.
But this says they really must use all three, the vegetated ground cover and shrubs and trees. That's the way I read this.
Right, that's what it says.
That's what it says.
What if just nice shrubs did the job of buffering? They also have to put trees and vice versa. They're good trees. It seems like, so what if you have a length of 30 feet? They have to still stuff a tree in there.
Say that again?
If they only had a maybe 25-foot strip that has to be vegetated, we're saying they must have a tree in there. Maybe just a couple of shrubs might be good enough. For
Or just two trees.
And
two
it,
trees or white.
With an understory that you can see under.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm not really big on shrubs and these planting strips because, as Marty says, they have a tendency to
they
get torn
beat.
up.
Yeah.
They really do.
So maybe
Trees
just the
survive,
trees.
these things usually do not. You know what I have to do is look at Hannaford parking lots.
Yeah. So
Quite frankly.
Well,
I'd like
use
to-
Roosevelt houses.
I'd like to see just
Yeah.
the planning board
work,
approval.
but they
instead
still
of-
get beat up pretty hard. But
instead
Roosevelt
of
goes to do a lot better than
specific-
pea shrubs or inkberries or any of
well,
those.
then you gotta get out,
Well, you know,
you
you're,
wanna take out the and, go back
Just-
to,
Well,
or,
Maybe I wasn't there the night that.
we discussed a lot about it, I think.
Yeah.
It went around and around. You know, it's something that we should say, put it in there, and something about the planning board. I mean, we should make it discretionary for the planning board.
Okay, that's one issue. The other is, further on, the end of that is, except in those situations where a paved and curb sidewalk is provided between the building and the parking lot. not sure if I see that. You have a parking lot the sidewalk is going towards,
Think of Hannaford
yeah,
in Kennebunk.
yeah.
Think of that separation between Hannaford building and the parking lot right there. You want trees there, yeah. It's sidewalk. That's a
Yeah.
sidewalk along the front, is it not?
Yeah.
And
You
then,
don't want trees and shrubs in there, do you?
and the pavement right up against
And the
it.
pavement right up against it. That's not an appropriate place to put trees or shrubs.
That would be, okay,
Yeah, that's a bad place.
okay.
But, okay.
Some
Are
work
you okay with that issue?
Yeah.
And to go back to your first issue, and
Look good.
But you have it downtown Kennebunk.
make motion.
Okay.
I didn't resign.
All right, so, let me hit that. I thought I heard something say we'll come back to it. Okay, I want to make a motion then. On, my first issue was to change it from ground cover, shrubs, and trees to be instead ground cover, shrubs, or trees.
Okay.
And/or. Yes.
Well, that's in there.
I'd rather
now,
have it ground cover in trees or shrubs, because I'm
Not
thrilled about the shrubs.
But the other part of, okay, that's a motion. Do I have a second to the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a second.
You
on
get
it
your
first.
grass.
The only part of the discussion that I'd like to comment was you also said while we were talking it first
Yeah.
time, that you wanted some discretion by the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need,
So I'm open to an amendment on that. How could that be worded?
Or at the discretion of the planner.
Or at the discretion, or just be, must meet the discretion?
at the discretion of the planning board.
So you can get away with just your grass.
So pull out
You don't want
what
grass.
it's made out of,
You gotta mow it. You want ground cover.
so should we,
This is Octo.
this will, I guess
This
I'll
will
try,
be a spec.
I'll try an amended one. In all other areas beside the front yard, a minimum 5-foot planting strip must meet the approval of the planning board. That,
Shall be, shall separate and planting, shall.
how would that, could that be worded?
You can put in there, planting design shall be at the discretion of the planning board.
About shall be approved by.
Do we
So
not?
you're putting this where now again?
Separating the big parking lot from the building itself. Set strip between the two. Not directly in front, but at the parking. Usually you have a drop off, or you have an aisle there that goes in front of the building. Usually, not all the time.
They have to submit a landscaping plan, right?
Yep.
Why not just reference as approved to do?
But you gotta give them some guidelines to work from.
You guys got to have some ammo. I mean, because let's put it this way. Remember, we've had a couple applications where we've had a great deal of resistance to this, and it was because there was some standards in this ordinance that you were able to stand fast on this standard. You don't want to make it completely discretionary, because then you're not going to get a uniform design from planning board to planning board. But at the same time, you don't want to hamstring people. And Marty's right. You don't want to always require, you got to put in ground cover, shrubs, and the trees in every circumstance. There's times when it's got to be reasonable. And so, when you put or trees, and there's the discretionary language right there. I think the planning board just has to make a decision, and they can sit there and say, no, we don't like that, we want this. I mean, and you can make that argument. I think you got.
so
that
my
argument.
original motion was still valid, just change
Yeah.
it to or trees, and it's still up to our discretion whether we.
So I approved the
Approve it,
landscaping
yeah.
plan, that was my.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so I'll stick with my original motion.
Okay, my mistake, I didn't mean to.
So it said ground cover, you wanted to read ground cover, shrubs, and/or trees is what you originally said. Is that what
That
you
would
still
work,
want?
yep.
Okay.
So you could use all three.
You could if you want.
Or else you could say ground cover and/or shrubs and/or trees. I know, it's
So at this point, it's ground cover is
very
required.
uncomfortable, but, you know,
and then
remember the
shrubs.
problems we had with and/or before the ZB on private ways?
Oh, no. Whatever is required.
Any combination of.
All right, there you go, John, I like that. Do you like that? Any
That
combination
works.
of?
Well, not any, a combination
combination,
of
yeah.
either
Well,
shrubs.
Is that what
Any
you want to do?
combination.
No, any
Consisting
combination,
of a
then doesn't
combination
matter what
of
they do, then they're approved.
Vegetative
saying
ground cover
combination.
shrubs and trees.
So
So,
you're saying you're gonna need more than one, though?
no,
It's a
combination.
combination of.
Combination,
Combination
more,
is more than
two or
one.
more.
That's two or more.
Two more. Well, you're gonna want a ground cover,
And what do you call in ground cover?
vegetated ground cover, not grass. I wouldn't call it, grass is terrible in this situation. I'd use like bearberry, quite
What?
frankly. Bearberry.
What's that?
It's a low, you know what it is? You ever been in Nantucket?
No.
Okay. You ever seen a picture?
Let's live what we got around here instead of.
It is.
Out in,
Okay, it's out on Bitter. I think there's some out at the pool, Biddeford Pool, on the sanctuary. What it is, it's a low growing, plant that loves salty, acidic conditions. Once you get it established, it grows in really dry conditions, and that's why I mentioned Nantucket, where it's basically a desert. It's like the desert of Maine out there. It's all sand. They get fog, but not a lot of rain. And it has red berries in the summertime, and it turns brilliant scarlet red in the wintertime. And it crawls and creeps and basically fills in over time an area. It's a spreading plant. It's a spreading ground cover. Now, that's what I would recommend.
If that's the case,
It's one
when
we'll
you
use
put
is
one
all-
spot here and one spot here, how long does it have to take? Because turning you won't meet the requirement because it's not visible.
Well, actually,
I mean,
when you do a landscape plan, or frankly, really honestly, when you do a landscape plan, you always put the material on, and when you do your circles on the material, it's usually at its growth maximum or near to its growth maximum, or that's the ideal growth size.
Okay, but between.
So
the-
that's what the landscape architect's supposed to do.
Sure.
Yeah, but we
And
need
between
them.
in between these things, though, you have grass, right?
No, just have some chips.
Sandra.
Yeah, it's like it would be fine. Use Pachysandra, although that's going to get burned up in a parking lot.
But nothing grows in it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
You're gonna mulch it in between. I mean, if you look at Hannaford, Hannaford's a good example. I mean, because they have this Hannaford, not so much, but I mean, it's just a material that'll be on the ground, and it'll spread over time.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's look at,
these
let's
beer
look at
berries will
things
get
that we
60
all can visualize. Let's look at the Olive Garden. They have
Which
the right here on 111.
Okay, I don't know.
That or the Longhorn. That's right there. That's
Okay.
right out at the end. They have the grassy knoll that comes over. Then they have these big strips that have either bushes or
Yeah.
trees, and then they have the mulch
Yeah.
and so forth. But there's a lawn component.
They can
Do
have
all of
one
them.
if they want.
I mean,
No
but-
problem with that.
Yeah, but this is only 5-foot strips. We're not dictating the landscaping in front of the business. This is a 5-foot strip in the parking lot.
Now, you're telling me, okay,
That's what it is.
Okay.
You know, it's that planting island in the parking lot.
I got you.
Okay. No, it's okay. It should be.
I've got you.
Damn it! I've got a board over here.
No.
I'll draw on the wall. I don't care. Let me get the board.
I think you boss might care.
I care.
I missed the application.
What was my motion
Okay,
again?
well,
and/or.
You said, well, I'm a little confused, you said you wanted to change number 4 and have it from vegetative ground cover shrubs and trees to a combination of ground cover shrubs and or trees, is that?
Well, that sounds good until it was pointed out that combination means you need at least 2 or more.
Which could be shrubs and trees, you know.
That's why I'm saying
ground cover at all,
and/or.
If you leave it that way, so.
you could do or.
That's, was one of the.
Or-
And/or.
If you do or, then that's
Yeah, but-
leaving only one choice.
Yeah,
Oh,
you see
and/or.
it's only.
And/or.
But just
Yeah.
or.
No,
No,
then
that
you
one
want,
leaves one
then you
choice.
have to have one that's the.
Oh,
and
just
or
simple,
and.
one or more.
Of the following.
Oh, yeah,
One or more of the following.
good idea, Marty.
There's your and or, and then,
And everybody can understand it.
Is that what you want it to be?
Yeah.
One or
so-
more of the
yeah.
following, ground cover, shrubs, trees.
One or more of yeah, those are three. Or other things we haven't thought of.
But we'll think about
Okay.
them later.
So,
So I don't even need to set
Have
this
the
up.
motion. Have a second to the motion. John still second. Any further discussion?
Marty was the second.
Oh, Marty?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They
Doesn't
both
matter.
did at the same time.
Okay. All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, this is unanimous. Move on. Any other, we told you you didn't.
Thanks,
need to do
Dad.
that.
Sure, guys.
Setting that up.
Can I
Um,
just read it back to you one more time to be sure I have it right? Please. It's gonna
Please,
be
go ahead.
one or more of the following, ground cover, shrubs, trees.
Vegetated ground cover.
Oh, yeah, well,
ground cover,
vegetated,
Marty Marty,
ground cover, shrubs.
ground cover.
there are guys who would paint it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
No, it's been ruled against by the Maine Supreme Court. so
Okay.
let's
Did
not
the ground
tempt-
cover?
Let's
Now,
not.
how's your tennis courts that are like that?
That's not landscaping.
No,
Okay, any other questions or anything you need resolved?
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Anybody else on the board have anything else for the landscaping for the DB1? Parking lot, the rest?
Moving on here.
Okay.
Not bad, 9 o'clock.
what time are we done?
Okay,
Mr.
well,
Chairman?
Probably, it looks like another 20 minutes, maybe, it depends on the discussion. We're gonna move into the implementation strategy. We're gonna look at, the ordinance approval process. And then look to see how we can interface with both the Comprehensive Plan Committee and the Economic Development Committee. In accomplishing, as you all know, just these ordinance revisions, it's been like pulling teeth. It's been very, very slow, cumbersome, even with the additional nights that we had kind of tried to dedicate so that we would have this ready, and really got concerned a while ago that we're just not going to be able to get through this whole thing if the intent is still to have a final document to move forward at town. Because after we do our review, then we have to do another review to do it in context with the other things we bring, because we're gonna have missed things, we wanna have, et cetera, and we're all gonna learn from that. Several times we've mentioned the need to get the Comprehensive Plan Committee up again to look at some of these broader areas. But until we actually get into our zoning, I guess, and where this zoning is really going to be, we have the DB1 defined, but until we have all of those issues, I'm not sure. I'm just giving you my own overview. How much information we could give them, and I'll open up for discussion so that they could move forward. The Economic Development Committee has specifically been working the Townhouse Corner, and they've had public meetings with input from it by Tad. I'll have him go into that. But from a strategy, trying to get this thing done, we probably want to try to give ourselves some goals, I would think, out here to try to get some of this done. Is that fair? What do you think?
What's our new target date? Is it next June? This June's out, right? So
Well,
we're looking at a
that-
whole year, or we're gonna,
No,
Try-
this June is out.
yeah, this June, we already know it's out, but, so is it gonna be, we're looking for a special town meeting in between sometime, or November, or we're gonna?
Well, I think it depends upon when the comprehensive plan committee can do what it needs to do.
And I don't think they can do what they need to do until we have some of the things further defined for them to look at for the wording. Would you agree with that? I mean, I was an advocate trying to get them on so that they could be working in concert with us through this
Have they
process.
been meeting yet in regards to this? No.
They're not even appointed.
No, okay,
So-
so right there, that could be
So,
a couple of months just to get them started.
No, we can't wait a couple months.
So-
We can't. I
So,
think
is there a list of people ready to just?
there are, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
no, please take. I'm just trying to give an overview of why I thought we were having some difficulty where we first, what some of the first goals were, why we're not meeting them. And it's not that we haven't been working hard and diligently and trying to do it. This is,
That's a huge undertaking.
and it's all new to all of us, and we all have a lot of questions.
One I understand for the comprehensive plan was never dissolved, it's called a standing committee.
Well, the committee, yeah, well, that's the committee, but who's on the committee is a point. Is that what you're talking about, the members?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
It's a
up to the town.
standing committee.
Well, it's an ad hoc, it's an ad hoc committee, first of all, right? It's not it's not a charter committee, it's not on the charter. So it comes and it goes, as
No.
you say.
Sir, last time when we had to do anything, when we had all the comprehensive plan together, the committee was never dissolved. It was a standing committee. So when it had to be brought to question something, committee was already there.
What was that?
Well, the standing, Marty's right about that, it is a standing committee, meaning that the committee is always, or should always be available, but the members may change. The members can be reappointed or reassigned and so forth, but the committee exists.
That's to the town manager.
Right.
Yeah, the
Town
manager
manager
does the appointment.
decides who
Yeah, that's not
serves on the
us.
committee.
Yeah, okay.
So I think he's been talking to a number of people and has asked some members of that, who I think who used to be on that committee, he's asked them to start putting together some names, and he's got some names. He hasn't asked me for any, and I don't believe he's asked us for any. He's kind of trying to keep us out of it in a way, because we're gonna have to interface with these folks. And in talking to a couple people who are slated to be on that committee, we've talked about the potential of having joint meetings with this board. So we're not working against each other. We're all rowing in the same general direction.
We did that with Keith's Butter.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
well,
it
we've
worked.
done-
It must
we've
have
done
worked.
several things over the years with
Well, it works
the
fine,
committee
we
as
just
we
have to get it going.
as we identify problems. That's why early on I wanted to,
Yeah.
and we've had several, but we
This might be the most involved though, we've spent a long time with it.
Well, there's a number of things that, we talked about this, I talked to Donna last Tuesday night about this, because I understand she's one of the ones who's heading this up, and I hope she gets to stay on it. I hear she's
I
running.
don't know, nobody's been appointed.
Yeah, true, that's a very good point.
She did volunteer.
Yeah,
but
she
that's-
did volunteer. Appointments haven't been made. But the idea is that they like the idea of looking at the target areas we're looking at, and maybe a few other ones, especially in residential neighborhoods. They like the idea, at least Donna had expressed that people she had talked to, like the idea of zoning per neighborhoods instead of swaths.
yeah these
Yeah.
huge, which would be quite different than the work that we're doing.
Well,
There's some
it isn't, because we're
it-
doing neighborhood planning.
Well, but it could bring us back to that planned mixed-use districts
Yeah.
before. Donna attended the EDC meeting the other night and had a lot of good comments on both for the residential aspect, the commercial aspect down there, and how some of that might fit. So I'm excited about getting people to really talk it and try to move at the beginning of the comp plan. So we'll have to adjust too, and looking at how that can do a couple of things. Some of the areas, we all know, it's way too loose, open to a lot of interpretation. Other aspects of it it's written like an ordinance, and needs to be more of a guide, and not only for us, but for the town, for the selectmen, would change.
And
So I
or-
can't,
And/or,
well.
I mean, I'm
Yeah,
using
so
that
you're
as.
right, yeah, I mean, you're
So
right.
what comes first then? We really can't move ours forward until the comprehensive plan
Yes,
is
we can.
complete.
Yes, we
think
can.
Do it in concert.
I think,
Do it in concert.
yeah, I
Do
think
it
that's
together
the way
in
to
collaboration.
have the, have
We
the
can't do it
discussion.
waiting one for the other.
We're assuming that the comprehensive plan committee is going to see it the way the planning board is seeing it.
Right,
That
and
you
if
cannot
they have other
necessarily
ideas.
assume
That's
that.
true.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, we know that.
I would say, I would only make this one distinction to that comment. One is, from the beginning, we've said over and over and over again, we had to move forward with this because this was a major undertaking, and we had to have a platform from which we could then move and make changes. Some of those changes may be to the comp plan committee, some of their changes will probably be to what we've written, what we think are best for the area. That's through open discussion. Some of the changes may be because of this contract that we have and that view, items, uses that we haven't even entertained that aren't even in here. We may have to backtrack thing and then look, is signs, lighting, utility, all of that appropriate for these new uses. So there's a lot of give and take that will happen. And then, only when we're in concert will we have two documents to go to town. And where there's a really a head button, my opinion, then it goes to the selectmen.
Then we also.
There are elected
We al-
what we're gonna present.
We
to
also
the
have,
town.
have to trust that they're both gonna be approved at the same time.
Yeah,
'Cause
oh,
what
I
if
know.
one gets approved, the other one doesn't, then we're screwed.
Comprehensive plan is the guidelines.
Yeah, that way.
But here is what we set the precedent, okay?
Well, it was taken to be more the
Well,
Bible to
we've been trying to stay true to the existing comprehensive plan. And if they just work with that, we're all set, but they could have whole brand new ideas. I want to put an airport in town or something.
Well, that would be, hey, that's a good tip district. I mean,
Chad, you seem to feel that there were, or express that there were some time constraints as to when we had to get this done, like you said we couldn't wait a year.
Well, I was thinking that we have a lot of impatient people who are excited about what we're doing and want to see certain things get done quicker. The selectmen had been a little concerned that things hadn't been moving along, although I think Dan, attending meetings, helps communicate to them that this is not an easy task, that this is, rewriting from zero is not an easy task. Especially considering we have a zoning ordinance that has been patched just about every year. I don't think there's a year that's gone by where we haven't made an amendment to the zoning ordinance. So it's really a bunch of patches at this point, and what you gentlemen are doing is building a new tire, and that's not an easy thing to do. I think they understand that, but with the comp plan committee coming in, and the branding study, or marketing study, branding marketing study, going on at the same time, I think we're going to be given a little more leeway than the impatience they had expressed to me about a month or 2 months ago. They've gotten some
Well,
expressions of impatience.
I think I'm as impatient as all of them went. And I did have a meeting with town managers expressing that view that we weren't going to be ready. We were going to continue on working as hard as we could, but for this meeting, there's just no way that this was going to happen. So, I firmly believe, and I mean, it's up to you guys, the timing. You know, this is really the strategy formation. What is our opinion of what is best for the town? To continue going it alone, bring in a comprehensive planning committee at the end? I don't think so. I believe anyway. We need to get them on board to whatever level to begin with. If they identify issues, we identify issues, and then we can talk specific where there seems to be conflicts and have dates and time. And that might be something for either an additional meeting and or as part of our own if we can kind of catch up. And or do we get in with the EDC? They've worked very diligently, very hard for this townhouse corner. We could stop some of our stuff and do a patch. I know Ted doesn't like that idea, but
because
I
there's
mean,
another major potential comprehensive plan conflict.
well,
You know,
again,
So we're running that risk if we start to try to patch.
see, to me, it's not risk because then it would be voted down.
But it's also
If you
several
can't get it
months
done.
of working towards something that it's turned down or it doesn't fit with the rest of
You know,
It drags the rest of
Contact
the rest.
zoning.
It drags the
Okay.
rest of the ordinance down. with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know, we do need to make sure that we have general consent. We're gonna have people who are not happy with every aspect of our ordinance. But one thing we wanna make sure is that there's something in it good and positive for everybody that makes them want this ordinance to occur. And then in general, it's a much needed improvement over the current one. Not that the current one is bad, but it's not necessarily fitting all of the needs of the comp plan. Because we had standards in the comp plan that we still haven't met in the ordinance yet. And the changing, I mean, Arundel's changing. It's that simple. And there's a new, as you know, there's more of an emphasis, and I think with this overly prolonged recession/depression we're in, there are different priorities these days, and a need for, I think there's a recognition of a need for growing more of our own homegrown businesses and more non-residential property tax opportunities and job opportunities. And so some of our priorities have changed. They're not that much different than they were before, but there's some emphasis changes. And I think, you know, that it's actually a good time to have the comp plan committee adjust to that too, because 2005 or 2007 was the last update. Lots happened since then.
So the other group plays into this is that consultant and
It's
what
through the EDC, Economic Development Committee.
Okay,
They're
so
kind of
so
overseeing
his
that
his
work.
message will be through them.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
so I think I'm following, we want to get what I'm hearing, we want to get comprehensive plan, maybe at least initiate some discussions and then together decide how we're going to meet when and whatever. Until there is something substantial coming out of this contract, then, if we're not doing townhouse corner, and I don't disagree with you, but I try to put everything on the thing, then that would be the time when we would have the discussions and how to move and look at their thing. Is that kind of what you're you know, you're not suggesting, but is that seem to, there's no need to jump in right now, I would guess.
No, Townhouse Corner was an interesting meeting the other night. You know, I kind of pushed the EDC to push on Townhouse Corner because we're so involved in DB1. I was trying to, you know, make sure that we had something else going elsewhere in case we tried to make the June deadline, and which you know obviously we can't do. So they were going to report. They were in a way working for you guys, doing a lot of this groundwork, coming up with proposals that they would make to the planning board. And I've basically been saying the planning board wants you to essentially give them a report on this particular area with this idea that we had actually talked a little bit about, and they had become big advocates of. And last night's and Tuesday night's meeting was essentially an opportunity for them to get some input from the public who would be impacted by any changes in that district. And you saw what that was. It was a mixed bag. I mean, you had some people very much in favor of it, and some that were very much opposed to the idea. And I shouldn't say opposed; they were opposed to large-scale change, and change that would have a deleterious effect on that neighborhood. And it was about scale. It was about scale of activity, it was about intensity of activity, and it was about the nature of the, not just the nature of the activity, but, you know, how it
Yeah,
affected.
nature,
Just the
hours
nature
of
of the
operation,
activity.
noise.
And the noise, traffic, the usual impacts that can be generated by this. So it wasn't a slam dunk, as some members of that board, of that committee thought it would be. I didn't walk away with a slam dunk feeling of that at all. I said I didn't expect, you know, a rousing applause and brass bands playing. But I think we walked out of it with a lot of good information, and I felt very encouraged by it.
When was it and how many people were there?
It was Tuesday night at 7 o'clock at the school, and I would say there were about 25 to 30 there. I put up
They
40
might be just a
chairs,
little less, but
maybe a little
somewhere.
less. Yeah, that includes the
Yeah,
committee.
wonderful, see, to me,
Yeah.
wonderful turnout.
Yeah.
However,
Go ahead, Mom.
see, that's all good stuff, and I agree with you totally. There's a lot of good information, even to the concern about creek. That was on both sides. That was on the ones opposed. That was on the ones for. A lot of recommendation thoughts, even from those opposing the kind of idea to expand on home occupation. Is there some way you could look at that and maybe allow bigger things, but from the home? So there's a lot of wonderful ideas. But again, I want to get us back to our mission. When is the best time for us to start our interface with them is when they've digested that, and to me, when they've got that information, digested it, and are either ready to present and or to ask, or maybe ask us for help in this, finish this part of the regulation, or these are our proposals. I don't know the answer to that.
I think, you know, they're going to have to come up with some compromise ideas, and they're going to have to work it through it. And I think they're going to have another meeting with the community, especially with the naysayers, or naysayers. That's not a naysayer. The people who have legitimate concerns, they need to get some consensus. They need to close the gap between what I saw as two different sides, and find compromises between that, and then make a recommendation to us. I had written, you know, an ordinance for them after their initial meeting back in, when was that, January, right?
February, I think we
February, which was a bust because nobody from the neighborhood came except for the members of the EDC who happened to live in that neighborhood. And so they said, well, let's move from this. And so I wrote an ordinance based on what they had come to a conclusion about. And they, of course, not being experienced in ordinances, had no idea what to do with it. As one of the gentlemen said, he says, I don't want to get in the weeds here.
So
Which was a very poignant and honest statement to make.
So if once they get to the point, let's say they do bring in, you got a consensus, and then it comes to us, do they have it in this type of, not the language, but
the same format.
It's going to be the same format.
Are they working,
Yes.
are they aware of that, and they're working through you on that? And
Yeah,
so when we get it, it's really just reviewing it and wordsmithing.
Yeah, it's going to be you.
I
It's
like
going to
that.
be up for you to wordsmith. I'm not going to let them get to your level of critiquing. I think that what they need to do is they need to really, because they've got this marketing study to work on. They've got several other initiatives to work on. They are not experienced with ordinances the way this body is. They don't understand the nuances, and they certainly don't have an understanding of the same land use law. And sometimes you guys don't seem to appreciate how much you have learned being in this body, how much you know about land use law and procedure that the average person doesn't have a clue about. So I don't think I'm going to burden them with that. And I think it'll come back to you guys to wordsmith and to flesh out their ideas.
The problem with us knowing all that, the details, sometimes when the public doesn't understand it, it makes it look like we're screwing them, or sticking it to them.
Yeah, that's what we'll have to get
and
that
that's and down the road, so no matter what we do, my fear that I've had is when you first proposed it's like, will it sell? And so we still have to come to that point where we need to get the whole community involved somehow. And there's a lot of pieces going on, but that's still maybe 100 people all together in town, at the most. Where it might be, you know, we gotta convince all, if it's in the ballot in November, it could be, 1,500 people voting, and only 10 has been involved. Will they know what we're doing, or what we have?
They won't, although we have some advantages that are coming our way right now, and they're basically at the behest of the marketing and branding study. Some of you have participated in the focus group, so you participated in the focus group, you were interviewed. There's going to be opportunities for more of the planning board members to be in a interview, and it might be next week. I'm scrambling right now. There's been a mess up on the schedule, and I'm scrambling to get people. So I may call one of you in the future for next week to talk to Howard. But the big thing that's going to be happening is there's going to be a community meeting on Arundel. Now, you know what community meetings are like. They're like town meeting.
Nobody will be there.
Well, 100 people is a hell of a lot better than 0, which is what we had at the other one. And I know what you're saying. They might come out for this because it's a little more exciting. Plus, will also have a community-wide survey that Howard has designed that we're going to be administering. So we're going to have a survey that's being done that really is going to focus not just on the economic conditions of Arundel, but townspeople perception of Arundel and what they want to see in the future of Arundel. That's what it's going to be really focused on. And so this is going to bring awareness that changes. We're contemplating change in Arundel, that things are happening. EDC is always out there cheerleading. And if you went voted 2 Tuesdays ago, you saw them with their table next to the Historic Society. And they were giving away free whoopie pies.
They were good, too.
Damn good whoopie pies. Thank you, Jen Burrows. So it's I think we're going to have a lot more exposure because of the efforts they're doing. Plus, we get newspaper articles on the marketing plan because it's much more sexy than writing ordinances. Unless we do something to tick off somebody, then that's sexy press. But the press has been covering it. It's been mainly, York County Star that's been covering their efforts. But at least it's some coverage. So I think we can jump on their coattails and some of the activities they do. And we're going to have a lot more exposure because of what they're doing.
Right.
So we combine work with them and work with the comp planning committee. I think we'll be able to get a lot more input, and it won't look like we're operating as out here as outlaws, like you're saying, like we're loose cannons. Yeah, we're loose cannons out here.
Well, we sure had enough open meetings. Go ahead, Marty.
If they're going to have this community,
Yeah.
are they going to do it on a weeknight, or are they going to turn and do it on a weekend?
I'm going to get them to do it on a weekend.
Thank you. Because weeknights, everybody is burnt out for one.
Yeah.
Secondary, the only problem is also, you have all the, and most of us, all of us, I could say here, aren't really have that situation. Little kids in sports.
Yep.
Okay, we have grandkids or anything else, but I mean, I'm just saying, we aren't the mommy and daddies that are turning around and running.
Yep.
And that is what draws a lot of people not to go to these things, because they're doing family-orientated activities.
Right. So are you recommending like a Saturday during the day? But that's usually when little ones start work.
I just know.
All the sports are during the day.
I know, I
It would probably
understand
have to
that.
be like a Friday night. It's probably the optimal time. Yeah, but if you do it during the day, that's when mommy and daddy has got the kids in hockey or Little League starting up.
I know, but I'm just saying, night's worse. Because like when we have town meeting,
Yeah.
that, to be honest, what you just said would be,
Well, Jen will probably do a supper.
I mean, that would bring the family together as an activity, and it could be discussed at the same time.
I would agree with you, Marty, although I'm not sure of being so.
I'm
I
just
think
throwing-
that's a
I'm just-
generational
We're
thing.
not the ones that are.
No,
doing
no,
it.
I'm just trying to throw out
I know, and I
They're all good
agree,
points.
and I agree with you, and your points are wonderful, but we're not the committee that determines when, so the idea is there, share that with,
I will share that.
share that with
And I
the,
think they'll agree
I
with
would suggest that somehow they come up with some funds and have a Rundle House of Pizza supply free pizza dinner. Well, not free, but, you know, something,
Good donation.
attractive.
I mean, it's a Rundle business providing the pizza for pizza night.
Well, as you know, Jen Burrows has been doing that. She's been providing all the food and all these things.
Okay. So
I haven't gotten the bill yet.
Right.
in general, we wanna move forward to both Ted, the town planner, get the comprehensive plan committee together. CD, the EDC, when they have, at their request, we can schedule time with them anytime that they believe they have the need to come to us.
Yep.
And or when they have done their review of the contract and the results. I think and maybe that can be even a joint one with us and the selectmen or whatever to
I think it should be joint. I
to
think-
get an overall briefing on that. You hit the point of if we get to, since we're not gonna have it this June, it's probably gonna be the next June, maybe sometime prior to June, but not within that 90-day window, maybe November-ish, December, January, somewhere, to have some, okay, this is what we're going to propose in June, you know?
Yeah, give some heads up, because
Yeah,
it's just, what,
And
we
that
all
way-
know that we
That
can
way
have,
they've got
we can get
6
everybody,
months.
again, back to my biggest fear, we have all the pieces in place, we've tried to pull everybody in, and then there's, every time, there's this small group that say, they didn't tell us, no one ever invited me, and then it turns the tide against us, and so it takes a lot of work, and I think we're doing the work, but we have to be prepared for those outliers out there, it's just,
Because I don't think half the town people know
but,
any of this is going on.
Of course they don't, and it's really hard.
that's
I
a
keep
good,
trying
yeah,
to
we
put it
run the arrow that,
on the website, in the arrow, and all those, every dissemination thing, but it's also gonna take you guys to talk it up.
yeah.
We talk it up, the EDC talks it up, the comp plan committee's gonna talk it up, we're gonna have these surveys going around, we just get the word out constantly. We'll try to get the Trib to run an article at some point, you
Comments
know?
on
Where
strategy.
I think is in our favor this time is, we have the business community, the EDC, that's actually is one of the driving forces. And we didn't have that last time. I think we made a mistake by not getting them as owners.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a mistake.
yeah.
And I think we
That's
still
a
need to
big
bring
difference.
them more into it.
Yeah.
We're gonna need to bring them more into it. But, one thing I would like to say, Mr. Chairman, in reference to this, I have had a request for a small change to the zoning ordinance, totally unrelated to everything else that we've been talking about.
Okay.
Planners report?
I was actually doing it under, this is part of the
Oh.
strategy. Yeah, I've had this one request, and it's been something that's been bugging me for a while in a number of areas. Yes, it's roads.
It's what?
It's road related. Well, you know what? I'll give you more results in the planner's report. But, you know, some of the exemptions aren't working out too bad.
We do have a student.
Oh, I gave you this.
I didn't read it.
Okay, good. I'm glad I gave it to
You told me to file it.
you. Did you?
You told me to read it.
I've had this from a number of different, this is just one of several.
What is H3?
Well, you call that your well,
That's
that
BI.
used to be it used to be the highway district.
It's
Right?
BI.
And they changed the names around so frequently.
It's BI. It's our BI district, and basically, you know, we allow, as a way of reducing the amount of roads and problems, especially considering that you know, our lots are longer than they're wide in this town. You know, we have a lot of those. We have a lot of, they're not spaghetti lots, but they're long and narrow lots in the town. Deep, let's put it that way. And this particular individual speaks about something that I've run into, that we haven't had a lot of people who have done estate lots, but there are a number of people who are very interested in doing them, and we restricted estate lots to essentially pretty much all districts except for the BI district. And I believe also, I think we restricted it in the CCS. And I think the reason we wanted to keep it out of there was we really didn't want to have all the curb cuts along Route 1. Because remembering that when we do become a town of over 7,500, which someday we will, that based on that population and based on our curb cuts, number of curb cuts on a state road, we become eligible for having an urban compact zone where we get the joyous task of, like our friends in Bedford, taking full responsibility for the maintenance and reconstruction of Route 1. So the object of minimizing or eliminating the use of excuse me, I'm stumbling here, of estate lots in the BI district was so that there wasn't, we just didn't have curb cuts all along. The curb cut, curb cut, curb cut, curb cut, that would make us prematurely eligible for urban compact status. So that's one of the reasons we didn't do that. You probably don't remember that.
I remember that.
Okay. Well,
Is this lot requesting a state lot that would connect to Route 1?
no, this is, no.
No, Proctor Road.
He's doing it to Proctor Road.
That's what it looks
Okay,
like.
how far down on the Proctor Road?
Not that far. He's in the
Is it
BI
on the
district.
curb? Well, BI district goes how many feet?
1,000 feet.
Okay, so
But
turn
it
it,
doesn't go that far. It only goes to like Kenny King's place. That's the last. That's the actual edge of the BI district on Proctor Road. And I'm not just thinking of Proctor Road. I'm also thinking of like Limerick Road too, because this is prohibited in Limerick Road in the CCS district. And I'm thinking about, which is already a town road, so it doesn't impact us from that standpoint. So I was thinking of the CCS district and the BI district that we would allow estate lots to go in as long as it isn't on Route 1.
okay, can you,
That's what I was thinking we could do.
for my ignorance, description, estate lot.
Estate, wow, that was, you'll find that in
I'm just saying, for,
77B.
yeah, but what, give us
I have the definition here, I just looked at it.
God,
It's
listen,
pretty
he's
short.
Daniel Webster here.
A large lot with a very long driveway.
Yeah.
That's pretty
It's a
much what it
50-foot
is.
frontage.
A lot with access established to a street or approved private way via a minimum 50-foot wide access strip owned in fee and contiguous to the estate lot. So it's
You have a very small frontage on the road and you can go way back.
Okay, but what is the lot size?
It's the same size as
the
required
zone
for a
requirement.
district.
So it could be like a mallet-shaped
Yeah,
lot.
exactly. It's like this.
Basically, so you can get to the back lot.
So you can get the back one. So you have your driveway coming up through here, like so, and your house is out here.
No. Also, two where we had turn on along the way. One driveway.
One driveway.
Only.
Yep.
Wait,
This
wait,
thing
wait.
is owned and fee by this, and the only distinction in this is that the minimum lot size cannot include the access strip.
Okay.
So this is not included in making the minimum lot size. So you gotta put if it's 1 acre, this box here's gotta be 1 acre. This is excluded.
Okay, my question is,
Sure.
and when we went turn on private ways and all this other thing along the way, so we have the 50-foot right of way, so we have access on it for safety purposes or anything else. But where does it become, or does it become, okay? Because if you have another adjoining lot on the other side, that becomes a common driveway. I mean, I'm just thinking where we had rulings on things that are not paved, and when you have three or more lots, and the road has to be, or the private way has to be paved. This is where I'm just wondering or trying to think of my question. Or am I out of line?
This is, one of the reasons we did this was to relieve people of having to build a private way to a back lot. Because under our old ordinance, you had to build, even though it was, just a driveway to a back lot, we considered that to be a private way, and it had to come to private way standards, and it had to go through the private way approval process, which meant design and build. So we said, this is a burden. We want to be able to, because of Arundel's unique feature, and because of the way lots are, and the way they've been developed along the roads, to get to the back lots, this allows somebody to actually develop a back lot without having to go through the expense of building a road. Now, if somebody were to say, okay, I want to take, if this same person here, let's say he owned all this too, and he wants to start subdividing, now he's a developer, he's into private way, and he's going to have to meet the private way. And you gentlemen agreed back in 2010 that this was going to be 50 feet instead of 30 feet to make sure that this invariably will happen. But to avoid the problems we've had in the past with 30-foot right-of-ways, where guys could not develop the rest of their land because they only put in a 30-foot right-of-way, you agreed we're going to go with 50. So if anybody wants to develop in the future, they haven't shot their foot off. So, but this private way, I mean, this estate lot, basically, has not too many people have taken advantage of it. I think we're going to see a lot more of it in the next few months. I've got like 3 people who have sat down with me and mapped it. I met with another guy today who's mapping one out. And now I think it's going to be a great tool. I think it's, and remember also we have a separation between these two. We have a 200-foot separation. So if you you can't put another one here. Let's say you couldn't put another one over here, like so. You got to separate them by 200 feet, which means you got to put another lot in there at the very minimum. So you don't have just this battery of driveways next to each other. You have separation between them.
What, 7.7B8A, it says no more than, just explain this on the board, no more than 2 estate lot access strips may access a single cul-de-sac terminus, and no access strips can access a hammerhead.
That means if we have a subdivision, for instance.
Well, we're talking about estate lots, though.
Yeah.
This is under estate lots.
Yeah.
Estate
You
lots.
can do it at a state lot in a subdivision. Sure.
Yeah, this is coming off of, the estate lot
Coming off of
the
a cul-de-sac. So here's your lots. Here's your cul-de-sac right here, and here are your lots going around here. You can have, this is your 50-foot estate lot coming back here. You can do this, and you can do this one over here, but you can't do more than 2. You can only do 2, and in a hammerhead situation, as you recall, hammerhead doesn't have any opportunity to do that. Because you've got your hammerhead like so, and most people are using the estate lot, I mean, most people are using the hammerhead for their frontage, quite frankly. But we don't want to have hammerheads coming off of, estate lots coming off the hammerheads. First of all, it's not even feasible because of the frontage requirements. Because you're only looking at 50 here and 50 and 50. It's just, it doesn't work.
Well,
You can't get your frontage.
I thought you would gain the bump of it.
Well, no, this is frontage. Like, for instance, this is 50, this is 50, and this is 50. Let's say, you almost got all your frontage just from having the hammerhead.
You're right.
But the problem is, if you start trying to pull these off of here, it just doesn't work.
Okay.
We're saying basically that hammerheads, just don't mess with the hammerheads. We don't want a hammerhead wrecked by all these driveways coming into it.
Well,
Okay?
I think, going back to this, I think it makes sense to change that. For the few streets that are in BI that aren't Route 1, I don't think it would be.
But this is not in a non-residential zone?
This is in the BI district.
This would be in the BI district and the CCS district, I do both of them. That do not access from Route 1. Remember, we're trying to protect ourselves. One of the reasons why we didn't do it was we didn't want all those curb cuts on Route 1. Number one, because we have some regs on curb cuts on Route 1. Remember that. Route 1 and Route 111, we have some specific curb cut regs there. Number two, DOT is really clamping down on it. And number three, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot prematurely and get ourselves designated as a compact zone before we have to, because that's a burden on the taxpayer.
On the other side though, we said best use was business.
Yeah.
Putting in roads.
But some like Proctor is
Oh,
really.
I'm not, no, I just,
How many?
I just want to make sure the
How
whole
many other
story-
roads are there in BI? Besides Proctor?
Old Post.
In Old Post.
You got Old Post,
In Old
Proctor.
Post, I don't think you'd have that issue there.
You got Limerick, and
Because the
you've
angle
also
comes
got
up.
River.
Would that be what you have
But that's,
drawn here?
that's not BI though.
No, I said BI and CCS.
Oh, it's, okay.
I was trying to also look at CCS. I mean, if you don't want CCS, you want to put it just BI, fine. They would just be.
Have it everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere, yeah, except Route 1.
Or it's Route,
Are you
yeah,
gonna
basically you can't come off of Route 111 and you can't come off of Route 1.
Are you
Because
gonna
those are our
turn,
danger areas.
are you gonna turn on and have
But
it in
you
such a
can
way in
come
your,
off-
I got two
BB2?
questions here, guys.
Are you gonna have it in such a way in BB2? Where you have it drawn here? Your estate lot is gonna be on Old Limerick Road coming up here?
Permitted in DB2.
Yes.
That's a good question, because
That is a good question.
the way we're kind of designing it is to allow all the cuts between the building for back access.
Yeah, but they aren't going to be estate lots. They're going to be coordinated developments.
What still would be, as far as the DOT is concerned, it would still be the same result.
It is still the same thing, but remember what we're trying to do in that area there. In any of these areas, even up in the DB, even in the B1, we're trying to limit the number of curb cuts on Route 1. And in this particular case, if let's say we got all this area back here and somebody wants to develop it, we want to encourage them to put one road in and service that area, from that one road.
We haven't
Connected
really
in
talked
the
about
back.
how to encourage that though, but we hope that they'll do it, but we don't have a mechanism.
Well, they got to get through me to get to you first.
Well, you can,
Sounds good.
You're the
keep
first
them out.
line.
Okay.
but if you go back
If
to
this is a
one-
policy, which is going to be a policy, I'm sure that we can work this into the comp plan.
Yeah.
Actually, I believe it's already in the comp.
Well, that would help.
It's already in the comp plan as one of the goals.
Good.
What we're doing is, in a way, we are implementing the comp plan. I mean, one of the things about, except for boundaries, everything we're doing in this district is pretty much trying to meet all the standards of the comp plan.
Yeah.
And so, if the comp plan committee goes back and reinforces that, and maybe sees that this is another mechanism and gives some blessing to this idea, they're not gonna find huge conflicts. They're gonna find some of the things we've already done and some things that we want to do are going to be fulfilling what the original intent was of the 2005 and 2007 comp plan,
Yeah.
especially if you look at the transportation goals.
Good.
Some of those transportation goals.
to your point that you couldn't do it, you could come off of Route 1, you could come off of 111 right now and build a house back here if you owned it, right?
With an estate lot? No.
I didn't say an estate
Okay,
lot.
yeah.
I'm saying right now, I could put in this, and if I owned this property out here, I could build that.
Yep.
And 5 years later, or 2 years later, I could do this and just have a driveway connect to it. So you can do it already.
Providing that's a 50-foot.
Well,
Oh, no,
Driveway, you don't
no, you can't. No, I'll tell you why. Because as soon as you put the next lot on there,
It has to be 50 foot.
no, it's not just that. That's a private way, because remember, that's where you're getting your frontage from. Remember that's that critical word, frontage, lot frontage. Here's your roll. Okay?
So let's call it let's call it an estate lot, and then I put in the second one. I mean, what we're doing.
If you have an
is
estate
wrong.
lot and you put in a second one, now you're a private way. And you're gonna come to the staff review committee, and you're gonna have an engineer plan for it, and we're gonna go, and you're gonna go through the same thing you private ways go through you guys, only you're gonna do it with me and Jim and Reynold and Roger.
Okay.
Okay? And then when you go to the third one, it's over to you guys.
But-
And it's a higher standard. That's why we have an 18-foot road. We're gonna want more on drainage, and we're gonna want more on shoulders and a number of other things.
But you have
And
your
when we get up
50
to
foot.
5, and when
But
you were
have-
talking about, Marty, when we get to 7 lots, that's when pavement gets involved.
Yeah, but you turn around, you have at least your 50 foot on the estate lot.
That's right.
Right.
You-
So
so
Bob
that,
can do that.
so
Bob can do that without
that or
ever-
anybody else could.
Exactly.
Because turn around, you have a double way for travel if you need it.
Yep.
Also, you have it for your utilities.
Yep.
Yeah, you can do it.
You're absolutely right, Marty. And that's why we did it. We spent a lot of time working on this, remember? We actually played ping pong back and forth with sizes and.
There was no motion on this. Was anybody prepared to make that?
I don't think we were ready to, this was just a throw up.
I think if you could write up a sample for us,
Okay.
showing, with the items we talked about as far as not accessing Route 1. Or we might as well go for the whole ball of wax, 1 or 111, and just make it available in all zones.
Yeah, it almost is right now, John. The only thing is it's not in the in the CCS and CCS and BI because of the interstate, the state highways.
Right.
That's why you guys
But-
did that.
but the question for
Okay,
you is,
why exclude one, now if you're gonna do it everywhere in town, and why would you want to exclude 111?
Because of the
Same
cost,
reason.
the cost, if we have to inherit,
Oh, wait a minute,
It's, uh,
no, it's not cost, because it's gonna be a state road no matter what, but it's a.
Oh, no, that's not
curb cut,
true.
so you
It
can
will-
limit it.
It'll be a state road, but we'll have maintenance responsibility. And that's
No.
not because we're doing
For
private
111?
roads. Yeah. What, you know that Biddeford is responsible for 111 from Biddeford Crossing to on? State's not responsible for that. Biddeford's responsible for that. They had to bring it up to a certain level of construction, which is a skim coat, by the way. The reason Biddeford hit Biddeford Crossing people so hard was they had to rebuild a lot of that road in conjunction with DOT in order to make sure that Biddeford could take it over. And Biddeford wasn't going to get stuck with a pig in a poke. So Biddeford really wailed on the developers there, and on Home Depot, and on Walmart, and they all had to contribute to the fund to redevelop that with the state. They kicked the state up and made the state do a full depth reconstruction in through there. But they own it now. You'll find that little diamond sign if you go in there near the border, over the border, and near the crossing there. You're going to see that little diamond sign that says Urban Compact. That's Biddeford's from now on. And you'll see it it's in Kennebunk.
Where?
I believe it's on Route 1.
Where?
Well, why do you think Kennebunk got to do the downtown? Because the state doesn't let you do parking like that.
they already had that,
Doesn't matter. They don't let you do parking like that.
then why did the
They
state,
didn't-
then why
I'll
did,
tell you-
wait, then why did the state have to turn up with the new bridge in?
Because they're responsible for bridges. Okay?
Well, regardless,
Great.
so,
I'll put some language for it.
Some language for us to review for the next one?
Yes, sir.
Planners report?
Planners report. I think we've gone over
We haven't
most of it.
covered
No.
We've covered just about everything.
What's the story with Patriots, anything yet?
In fact, I called Dan today.
yeah, they are moving.
They are moving. I called Dan today to ask him, our consultant wants to interview him, and Dan didn't call me back. But they're moving. They're doing some activity out there, but I haven't heard. I'll hear about it when Dan calls me back, which if he doesn't call me tomorrow morning, I'll be calling him.
I saw him a couple of weeks ago, and he said they were going to be moving in July, for sure. Had to. But then he said something about him coming in front of us for some modifications, or they go to you guys.
That's a roof. I'm not, you guys, did you guys not care about
That's
that?
that administrator.
Okay, so it's good, it's.
Change the tile to
It's
tin.
to tin
Yeah.
to
Doesn't matter.
And that's only on,
Yeah, let me
remember
get it,
that,
guy.
that bow front
Yeah.
in the front?
Are they gonna put it back up?
Yeah,
Because those aren't up.
I know they are. We're gonna talk about
They
that.
had
too.
some roofing issues to deal with, and they got them solved now, so they
Yeah.
can move.
So, if you allow me to make that de minimis change, I will. I don't have a real problem with it.
Okay,
Okay.
settled.
All right, good.
The only thing was that metal roofing, snow.
I know that. That's their liability, Marty.
It's their
I
requirement.
just,
Yeah.
does that change, will that change it from the characteristic of,
It's only on the
How big is-
gazebo. It's not the whole roof.
I thought it was
It's only on the boat front, from what I
the
understand.
bow front, the whole section,
In the
not
front.
just the,
Oh, I thought it was just a
that's
small
where,
thing
because
they
they
were.
turned out, we're supposed to.
I don't
It's the
care.
bow. It's the bow. I asked Chris to give me a sample to bring to you guys. To give me a picture or give me a sample, because he said, well, that's traditional New England. I said, please stop.
That's
No,
what
it
I'm
isn't.
trying to ask, if it's changing traditional.
That'd be good if we could just take a look at it.
Okay,
It's
if you
way
wanna
out
do
of
that, I will say, have Chris
Yeah.
bring it,
Maybe we
give
want
me a
to.
picture or a sample of what you're gonna.
Any
do.
other early?
We are filing our response to the lawsuit. Leah was working on that this week. We had 30 days to file our counter brief to a divorce brief. And that should be done by tomorrow. I haven't reviewed it yet.
So what, is it just simply a challenge to the Board of Appeals decision?
No, it's broadening it out. It's a challenge to,
The whole town.
it's a challenge to the whole state. It's a
The
challenge,
state.
it's basically, it's challenging the right of municipality to regulate land use in the face of right to farm legislation.
Yeah, they rate the farmers, I think, under their nuisance section, right? But they're applying it to the whole.
No,
thing.
it's the whole thing, basically.
That's how they're applying it.
That's how they're applying it. And they're saying that that it should be remanded back to the ZBA to consider under right to farm issue. And of course, we're saying this is simply a violation and that the court has no right to intervene on that, because that was not the issue discussed. The issue discussed at the CBA meeting that you were appealing is whether or not the code enforcement officer erred.
Should be an interesting case.
It should be. I don't want it to go to the law court. But if it goes, it's gonna cost us a lot of money. But if it goes, it goes. Good.
Anything
It's
else?
groundbreaking. Or else we'll get a new commissioner real quick. I think you heard my report on Townhouse Committee. I might be calling a couple of you in next week, early. Howard's gonna be here Tuesday and Wednesday, if anybody's interested. It's a whirlwind trip again, so, but I'll give you an update on that. There's a couple planning initiatives coming up that I will keep you, that you may want to attend. I'll let you know when they come up. They should be coming up fairly soon. Things that might be of interest to the planning board to attend, conferences, some learning sessions that you might be interested in. I'm interested in. There was an article also in the paper this morning about planners and planning commissions and towns. It was in the Portland Press Herald. Attempting to establish a community identity through their downtowns and creating town
You had
centers.
sent some out.
This
couple
was
weeks
this
ago.
morning. They were using Standish as an example. It's funny because it's Colonial Marketplace, which was one of our projects, one of Will's projects we did over there. So
Anything on the resort?
nothing on the resort. The resort. Last time I had talked to Joe and Rick about this issue, they had gone to the state DECD and gotten approval for the town to submit a TIF district for their project that would provide the financing for them to make their infrastructure improvements. Of course, the town's got to write the application, and they're willing to write the application for us, but the town has to go along with this. But we haven't gotten anything back from them in a proposal for the town to do this, because it would come probably probably first to the planning board and then to the selectmen. It might bypass the planning board, but the selectmen would want your opinion on it. And it would have to go to voters. But it's been a year since we talked about that. The interesting thing is, I believe, isn't it next year that they have, that their subdivision, I believe their subdivision will expire.
This time next year.
And this time next year, their subdivision will expire. We gave them one more extension, and if they don't do it this year, that's it.
Well, it just means you may have to reapply. And it goes
It costs
to
them
federal.
$28,000 to reapply.
How much?
28.
Plus, but also, don't they have to go
Right
back?
now, I think it's a lot.
Don't they have to go back to the federal
They have to go back to the planning board.
No,
Only
no,
the
no.
board.
for what they had to turn around for the size of the acreage of the federal?
Permits,
No, the permits, those permits don't expire, Marty.
That's why I was,
Only the planning board one. The planning board only expires if you don't start substantial work.
significant.
Yeah. And right now, I would say that they have not started significant work. They can't, because they were supposed to give me a $2 million bond before they started, if you recall. And then we knocked that down, and they were gonna do that one little section. But before they started, they were going to give me a price on that, what that was, so they could give me the surety. And they have not received the surety. So they can't do any work out there until I get that surety. If they do, I'm gonna give them a stop work order.
They did provide finances for the pumping station.
Yes,
right?
they did, and they have fulfilled that obligation. I'm not sure that's substantial.
I'm just
Start. They
saying,
might
let's
make that
not-
argument,
let's
but
not
I don't know
lose-
where that is.
Yeah, let's not lose sight of that, though.
I haven't.
And substantial benefit for the town, I know.
Yeah. it'd be
It was
lot.
a substantial benefit, and I'm not, I have no interest in pulling the plug on them at all. I'm just saying, now, if the board wants to consider that to be substantial, a substantial start, that might be your decision, because that's a
We'll look at it
relative.
a lot
when
of
it
money.
comes due.
There's a lot of money involved. That money that went into that pump station was not a small amount of change. And we are receiving benefit from it now.
Yes, and that's just something we, as a board, we probably need to get a little bit more educated
Yep.
before a decision. I just wanted to bring it out, that there's been other work. Okay, anything else?
No, I'll remember that later.
As always.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Any other business by
Oh,
members
I'm
of the
sorry.
board? Bert?
Anybody from the
Okay.
public?
No public, here, go ahead, your motion.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
I have a motion, I have a second, any other discussion? Do you remember anything
Nope.
yet? Okay.
We're
all
outta
in-
here.
All in favor, unanimous.
Got a lot of time tonight. Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, let me turn that thing off.
Oh, what was the big result of the fire alarm